My favourite river in Africa is indeed the Nile. Wow. Yep, we went there.
We went there. See, it's not just role-playing you get on this game, it's education on geography.
Well, yeah.
I thought it was just poor humour.
And also
That too.
cross-franchise references.
Indeed. Some sociology thing I read once rated sanity as merely the measuring stick by which we compare ourselves to others when we're children. We offer up like sentences on things we know or have seen, and we measure other people's responses to it, and thereby gain a measure of our, quote, sanity. So, there you go. It's all relative.
I think it's much simpler to define sanity as that stat you lose every time you open up any book in Call of Cthulhu.
A precious, precious resource that dwindles away.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
part of the fun, really.
it's a simple children's book dedicated to the word look. Open it up, lose 10 sanity. You should have known better than to look.
So, really, as well as being a racist, do you think H.P. Lovecraft was telling people not to read?
I think H.P. Lovecraft hated pretty much everyone. It's just some he unjustly hated more than others.
So he did recant some of his earlier life views when he's near his deathbed.
Well, it's a bit bloody late for that, isn't it?
Oh, he didn't know he was dying. That was the irony of it.
Well, it was just like, just in case I'm going to recant it, bleh. That's gaming the system a bit, isn't it?
Well, when someone is ill pretty much all the time, you never know when you're going to snuff it.
Yeah, that's a good point. He was not...
I mean, I'm not saying it forgives him. I'm just saying it's
No.
more he learned of experience, but yeah, he still did say those things.
Yes.
Ah. Do we have the final member of our group?
It's the final Webby.
This is all being recorded for posterity, by the way. So,
Yes.
just so we're all aware. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, kids. Anywho's. Well, at least let's get this intro started, shall we? We love the intro. It's got Caval's rank wrong, and a member of the team who hasn't been seen for quite a few episodes is still in the credits. So there we are.
It's got Caval's rank correct.
We'll try and turn up.
We might get the captain back one day.
Well.
We don't want a captain.
You don't want the captain back?
Continue to bounce from captain to captain.
Guest stars.
Tonight's guest captain will be...
Oh, Matt, you know the ongoing project thing? I want Vibers and I to team up to implant some instructions into Caval's bionic eye to compel him to take that damn Lieutenant Commander promotion, so my thing is not inaccurate.
I can promise nothing. What I can promise is that I'm now about to start the intro, so roll that intro. Oh, but I have to remember to turn the ambient sound off first. Indeed, good to see. Well, welcome back to the misadventures of the USS Navis. You can tell everything's going to go great today because so far I've had my mic crack up a couple of times, and I've now just had that bit that says the Fanfare Amongst the Stars, the credit to Kevin MacLeod for the theme music. Half of it was cut off, so apologies to Kevin there. I'll fix that for next week, I swear. It's all going well.
This
You
week's
said his
music
name,
is
it
brought
counts.
to us by Kevin.
It wasn't, you couldn't even see Kevin. It was Fanfare Foot, and that was it. The rest was black.
Good enough.
Oh well.
You said his name on the thing. That counts.
It does, and we very much appreciate Kevin letting us use it. So, thanks for coming, guys. Even though we had technically some Tweety birds going on over the start of the Fanfare Amongst the Stars, so that, in this case, was Sirenscape's fault. Anyway, how are we all doing? Two of you at least have muted yourselves, so you don't want to know what I think.
Brains.
Brains.
So polite.
Well,
We like
quite.
usually.
Well, I suppose the first question I should ask is, can everybody see the bridge of the Navis?
Yep.
Yes, we wake up and it was all a dream.
Yes.
Well,
And Sophia looks up and sees Admiral Stoker. Goes, wait, go back to the nightmare! Go back to the nightmare!
No, which do you weigh up more? Is that the Carpathia getting damaged, or Admiral Stoker? Like, which one's the nightmare?
yeah.
Mm.
Well, thankfully, this is just the loading screen for the moment, because where we're actually at, if we recall, is on the surface of Pasqual I. And last week, much to your, against your better judgment, you actually agreed to go by Admiral Stoker's order, basically, to go down and investigate a planet where you can't actually scan the surface, and therefore know what's going on until you get there, and you found out pretty quick when you got there. None of your electronic equipment is functioning because of some kind of interference that appears to be so far planet-wide. So those of you with bionics are now feeling in a pretty poor state. Especially the first officer, who a lot of her body is cybernetic, so she's kind of been laid up this entire time.
He is a cyborg.
Even
Yeah.
the doc didn't get off lightly.
Yeah. All I can say is regarding cyborgs, it's a good job we didn't leave the person best equipped to actually deal with it on the ship, dealing with his engine, eh?
Well, all things considered, yeah, exactly. He wanted to stay close to his precious engines, and of course, if he was down on a planet with you, he wouldn't be able to do much. Except complain that he couldn't do much. So yes, we currently have Admiral Stoker, who arrived on shuttle for some reason, couldn't call ahead, and relayed orders, that detailed that she was in charge of this mission that the Navis was go to the Pasqual system and investigate the first planet, which you of course have done, but you're now unable to actually communicate back up to the ship. So, your various understudies will be taking over for the positions that your characters usually sit at. So we're actually going back to the planet. As we are
Well,
to
in
meet
Davis's
the
case, I
locals.
think he's actually up there.
But yes, indeed. So if we recall, when we were onto the planet, we eventually did meet some of the locals. It was mostly a mother named Niseri and her two daughters, the elder of which being Chiola and the younger being Zuri. The people here seem to have a bit of a primitive hunter-gatherer type society. However, they're not that primitive. and they speak a language very similar to Denobulan, which the Commander Natala, being a Denobulan, picked up on some of it, but of course our xenolinguist, Mr. Edwards, was the one who managed to successfully create a line of communication between everybody. And so, with yourselves being, some of you a little bit banged up, some of you with malfunctioning, or non-functioning, I should say, cybernetics, kind of left at the mercy of the people, of the elements and the people who know their way around the place. So even though the Prime Directive is still a concern, your choices at the moment are a little bit limited. So you all judge that it's necessary to make contact with the locals.
Guys, although it's a primitive society, they have a cloning facility.
That's what we call being meta, folks. He's pointing out the fact that I have used multiple instances of the same character art in order to facilitate the fact that this place is moderately populated.
They might just be like the Bravos.
It's good to come out of pods.
This, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't, the guys who only listen to me can't actually see what I'm doing, but this motion I'm doing, it's called fishing. And it's also called being a wind-up. I'm used to it by now.
Quick, stream snipe, stream snipe, stream snipe.
You owe him money, apparently you do.
And to Natala, you know, he's got a history with Pasqual I, villager number 6. I mean, look at number 6's shifty eyes.
Now, before we move on, one thing that was worth noting is at the end of play last time was your little group was attacked by an animal, which usually is just a foraging animal that goes around for small animals and insects, but this was, well, rather angry and mutated, which the locals thought was a bit strange. But for now, it's going to be something you're going to have to maybe ponder later. But thanks to Bertram's plant knowledge and the rest of you helping with some hunting and some gathering, you have some primitive weapons on some of your persons. Pardon me. And you've got some food, some firewood, and have come back with some useful plants that can be used for medicine and stuff like that. So, all.
Carry our wounded commander.
And you made a stretcher to carry your wounded commander. Now, before we actually get to what you find when you do get back to Naseri's village, we are going to take a little aside and go back into space. So, back on board the Navis. So, Admiral Stoker is still technically in command. Those of you who your main characters are on the surface, your and like I said, your understudies, the ones who take over when you're not present, are currently in charge of your systems. However,
Bravos.
well, in one case, yes. At the moment, Lieutenant Bravo, head of security, is filling in on the ops station.
Is he?
Why is Bravo on ops? Surely people have chewed on ops.
I'm sorry for Bravo being the obvious position.
It's an entire bridge of Bravos.
We have assimilated the rest of the crew.
We are Bravo. We are one.
So,
We form the Great Encore.
obviously, the one primary character who is still present on the Navis is, of course, the chief engineer, Mr. Vibers, who has been spending most of his time at this point messing about with the main computer, because the main computer has been having issues on board the Navis, with an unusual amount of memory being used a lot.
Nova's not here. What did she do to this thing? There's gotta be something.
So, if I recall, the plan was to basically wall off a lot of the independent, different computer systems, so that you could try and isolate each of the what's the word I'm looking for? Departments. That was it. I had to open a ship's character sheet to remember that word. Each of the different departments are getting their computer systems compartmentalized. And it's around about...
Using the Californian is set up as a backup to run the life support systems if it all goes to hell.
That's right, because the one remaining runabout you're using as a reserve. Cool. Which was easy enough to set up. I echo that sentiment, and I'm going to do it again myself. Wow. It's whilst all the business has been going on the surface, for the most part, the crew of the Navis back on board the ship have been left to their own devices, just waiting around for some sign, any sign. But of course, they've lost their line of communication to the away team. But it's at this point that the tactical officer, Ensign Direxius, if I recall, let me quickly check. Direxia Oridas, or Bolian tactical officer. She reports that a ship is coming out of warp in the system. At which point, another Federation vessel enters the system and starts coming towards the Navis.
Ooh.
I'm going to quickly shunt us over to the bridge. So let's just disappear our away team members for now, so that we can have their understudies take over. Bob-op, bob-op, bob-op.
Surely Bravo would be at the security station and you'd have rather than he's been killed.
For now, apparently he's filling in on ops because Latude is apparently unavailable to fill the ops station, and Bravo volunteered.
He's there. Look.
Why you suggest
Stop being meta.
Sorry, I've had a long day. I'm in a bit of a weird mood.
Don't make me get a rolled up newspaper and smack you on the nose. I'll do it. So yes, your tactical officer says, Admiral, we're getting a hail. Apparently, it's the USS Walcott. At which point, Bravo, who some of you have used before in other episodes, he gets a twinge of a sudden spike of anxiety from the Admiral. But she seems to be mulling over her response, which, of course, is making the rest of the bridge crew kind of exchange glances as Ensign Keshen repeats the notion, Admiral, the Walcott is signaling us, so. At which point, the Admiral goes, sound only, which makes everyone take sideways glances, but nevertheless. Greetings, Navis. Captain Scarson of the USS Walcott here. We're looking for Admiral Stoker, and we're fairly sure she was last in this area. It seems there's some confusion. She apparently disabled the warp drive on the Calico after we left her with them. We were called back to the Calico and we tracked the Admiral to a point that seemed to rendezvous with you. Do you have her aboard?
I assume that Bravo would, as the most senior officer on the bridge, would now speak up and
Well,
take
these are
control of
your
the
these are
situation.
your crew members. So how do you think
Yeah,
they would
so-
respond?
So Bravo would, I think Bravo's too, as a Betazoid and linked to the rest of the Bravos, they're too honest not to lie. So I think that Bravo would advise that yes, that the Admiral is on board. But as far as we are aware, is that she has provided legitimate orders to our XO.
The moment Bravo turns around and starts to answer, Stoker gives the throat cut signal towards the comms officer. So Ensign Keshen kind of is now kind of torn between Lieutenant Bravo and Admiral Stoker.
This is personally, but I would say there is a level of disdain from the crew with Stoker.
I would concur. What do the rest of you think? This is your crew.
I concur.
I think Nova would have promoted to some trust in her. In that
I'm
she
thinking
got
we
Nova
have-
to analyse the crew and things.
I personally think Vibers is taking a recording of this so he can gloat to Andrews later about him not being there when Stoker's whole thing collapses. But yeah, Stoker hasn't really done a huge amount to endear herself to the crew, has she?
Davis, you were saying something.
I was going to say, it's amazing what you can do when you've got a runabout set up as a backup computer. You know, something with its own internal comms unit systems.
So Vibers is there listening in to this, and whilst he's in the Californian, yeah.
Yeah, and going, right, okay, can I establish a secondary comm to that ship?
If you want to.
Stuff it, it's only an admiral. What they're gonna do? Promote me?
Okay.
Congratulations, Commander Vipers.
So you managed to get. So Bravo's response does actually get through. At which point Stoker just shakes her head and jumps up to her feet, nods towards Ensign Keshen on comms, who opens a channel back. Excuse me. Walcott, this is Admiral Stoker. You're interfering in a highly sensitive and classified mission. Leave the area immediately. Go back to the Calico and await further instructions. At which point there's a long pause, and then Captain Scarson speaks. I'm afraid I cannot do that, Admiral. We've been ordered by Starfleet to bring you in, and that's what we mean to do. So, Stoker turns to the crew, a look of mild panic playing across her normally serene face. So,
Given. Oh, sorry.
go on.
No, you first. I'm interrupting you.
She commands the crew. I want you cut communications with the Walcott, and I want you to disable the ship.
I'd say probably after hearing that Bravo security, as like a senior officer said, she's effectively a fugitive. Probably round on her. And that.
Yeah, at the same time, there would be I would say that protocol would dictate is that the orders for the Walcott are transmitted to the Navis, so that we can confirm that their orders are genuine.
I'm sitting here in a runabout, my own comm setup. I'm gonna request they forward a copy of their orders because we believe the Admiral may have gone rogue.
Possibly at least have like a security team on standby, alerted but not activated, kind of thing.
Okay. Can I then get somebody to be Lieutenant Bravo using, let me see, daring and security to try and send a signal to the security teams stealthily, and it'll
not
be
just Bravo link.
well.
I'll
He's
use-
chief of security, but I suppose he'd have
could
to
just
send
ask
it to
sort of
one of his brothers to then send it
Yeah.
to one of security.
I'd say worst case scenario, he was going to use his value to pretty much try and nail it. But no, that'd be one way of doing it.
So a relay. Okay, that's fine. Well, the bridge crew have now just heard, and Vibers too, down in the shuttle bay, have now heard Stoker ask you to disable another Federation ship.
So,
Yeah,
teleporter.
that ain't gonna happen. I think Bravo would order Direxia to ensure that the weapons stay powered down, as that the Walcott has entered with no hostile intent. Their shields were down upon arrival.
Their shields are still down.
Yeah, their shields are down.
It was more the idea of using the runabout to transport her over to the other ship if we had to.
No, we can't. The runabout can't move at this moment in time.
Nobody has transport.
Right, it would scratch.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just one to the other.
So, Stoker is, well, looks rather furious. But yes, go on, Dennis.
Get a copy of their orders.
Right, so you're requesting their orders. So those on the bridge see someone in the background of the bridge of the Walcott come up to Captain Scarson, who, by the way, female human. Blonde hair, she looks about in her early 30s. And one of her crew comes up and kind of whispers something to her, at which point she cuts the transmission. Vibers, meanwhile, gets a response message back with a request for your authority code, your ID code.
I'll send them the Starfleet ID.
Yep. It takes a couple of seconds, obviously, for them to verify it, and at which point it comes back. You get Captain Scarson's ID, and you get a copy of her log. The Walcott was just on routine patrol in the area. That they also have log of that they had been used as an escort for Admiral Stoker, who was then being transferred over to the Walcott, which Captain Scarson says that the Admiral kept very much to herself. But not long after they dropped Stoker off on the what was the name of the ship again?
Calico?
Thank you, the Calico. After she was dropped off at the Calico, some time later, the Walcott got a message from the Calico saying that their engines had been disabled. And they went back. And apparently Admiral Stoker was gone. She had taken one of the Calico's shuttles.
Reply back, text acknowledged. We'll see what we can do to stop this escalating any further.
Alrighty.
Vibers out. And I think now's a really good time to initiate that Vibers protocol.
Hey! Lock out the main computer, alrighty.
Well, I'm already having trouble with it, so fuck it. It's not even that suspicious that the whole thing has just gone pop locked out error.
Oh dear, we're having that problem with the main computer.
Yeah, apart from when everyone presses anything on their computer terminal, it's like, please note that the Vibers protocol is currently in effect. We appreciate your message, but unfortunately, Lieutenant Commander Vibers is busy. Please leave a message after the tone, and we'll get back to you as soon as an operator is available.
Yep.
Alright then. However, we will leave that tense little situation there for now.
This is equivalent where we've gone to break and come back into another scene, isn't it?
So, the village is small but thriving. A number of humanoid creatures move through the streets, chatting with each other and laughing. Some look like Nisseri and her daughters, while others actually are widely divergent in their features, some sporting antennae, extra appendages, diverse statures, a rainbow of skin colours and countless other traits. The culture seems to be on the verge of industrial. There are not electronics or advanced inventions visible, Beasts of burden of endless varieties pull carts. Windmills turn on the edge of town to power machinery inside. Smoke emerging from some buildings hint at burning of wood or possibly coal-like substances. When you see the centre of town, you see that people are preparing food, throwing game and other fowl over large cooking fires. Large metal vats boil vegetables, and fruit is peeled and prepared. It looks like the evening meal is a communal affair.
Doctor,
Sorry,
Matt. Doctor, with your expertise on xenobiology, do you potentially get the feeling that some of these people are offspring of generations of Federation races?
I take roll to see if I can get any insight on that just by sort of like the appearance of them.
yeah, go for it. Insight and medicine.
Okay.
I'll make this
Medicine, can I
difficulty one.
Can I use xenobiology as a focus?
Of course.
Medicine, focus.
One success. Okay, on the money. So, the Pasqual I people are certainly not a race that you are familiar with having been encountered before, which would make a certain degree of sense considering the amount of interference on this planet. It, of course, makes sensor readings of the planet impossible, so it's no surprise that no one's come across these guys. But do they have traits that would suggest they were maybe a Federation race that maybe crash-landed here a year ago? Not really. Nothing suggests that.
It's more a case of the fact that they speak. What Andrews is implying at is
the denobulant.
The dialect is denobulant, and they have appendages that kind of like represent Andorian and like other Federation races. So if a crew had crashed here like several
generations
early
ago.
Federation era, is that could the generation have reverted back to a communal kind of nature, and is there similar characteristics of what you'd expect for like 7, 8 generation?
Well, this is the thing. This scattering of different traits is certainly very interesting. Anthropologically speaking, somebody here is an anthropologist. That would be Natala. Anthropologically speaking, if these people are all descended from the same, let's say, a primate species of some sort that evolved, the sheer amount of physical divergence that's going on within this small locale is very unusual. I mean, you expect some random genetic mutations to occur, but for this many?
What Bertram is thinking is, correct me if I'm wrong, but between the reactions of the villagers and the actual examination of the creature, it looked like these tumors and mutations that you described were a recent and unusual thing. Bertram's wondering, is it feasible that it might be something in the vicinity that's had, like, over time, potentially over years, even over generations, a gradual diversity mutation effect that might have for some reason kicked up a notch and started messing around on a more severe and urgent basis? Is that theoretically possible?
It's theoretically possible, or should I say hypothetically possible.
It's theoretically a hypothesis.
It's a hypothesis. It has not yet been proved and therefore cannot yet be called a theory. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I will.
It's a valid hypothesis.
I will say to our Andrews that hypothetically, basically, I'll say what my hypothesis is, explaining there's no way to actually be able to prove it in our current situation.
Okay. So,
In the meantime,
go on.
I was wondering, at what point does technology stop? Is it just electronics? Would we be able to make something like gunpowder? Does static electricity work? Can we make an internal combustion engine?
No,
So is there some artificial... there might be some artificial limitation in what can be developed.
It's
Nova wants to experiment.
yeah, it's certainly a question, and you don't know until you try. To say that resources around here appear somewhat limited.
I think it may be worthwhile as trying to gather as much information as possible as we can from the locals as to what's gone on in this world, what do they know, what's changed recently, whether they have seen anything come from the sky previously.
Okay. Well, there's a lot. Nasseri is eager to get what she's got to the village centre so that it can be added to the pile of stuff. So she excuses herself and her daughters as they move off in an indirect route. They're going to be going in this general direction.
Do the villagers seem on edge at all?
You're getting
With our
looks,
presence?
obviously. You're getting looks, but there's a lot of curiosity, and it seems when you did approach the village, obviously there are sentries on watchtowers, and they shouted something, which was recognition to Nasseri, and Edwards was able to glean from the conversation that they were basically asking, who are these guys with you? And as much as Edwards has gotten a reasonably good grasp of the language, you're pretty sure that because you detected more than a few positive descriptors in there, just from context, that Nasseri has vouched for you guys, and that was what allowed the gates to open and for you guys to be let in. So you're now obviously objects of curiosity. And now that Nasseri's gone off, the adults are kind of milling around, trying to look as if they're going about their daily routine, because they obviously know they've got stuff to do, but they're also watching you, obviously. Curious. Some are wary, but that's hardly surprising, considering. There are a lot of very inquisitive children peeking around corners and behind the adults' legs at you.
I have a very, very sort of disturbing image of what in about 2 minutes' time Nova is going to start teaching the kids to play.
Not just play.
Matt,
Yeah.
on the map, the various trees and vegetation stuff like that, is that actually there?
Yeah.
Can Bertram start examining the plants to see if he can use botany to see if he can see any similar sort of diverse, unusually diverse features among similar plants, similar to the people here?
Okay.
As that might feed into his hypothesis of there is something that has caused this over the long term that might have recently kicked up a notch.
And Webby also stated that Andrews thinks that you should maybe start asking the locals about stuff in general. So if Bertram is going to examine the plant life, Natala, with her semi-grasp of the language, could assist with somebody else going off to do something, and of course Edwards can assist with somebody else going off to do something. Obviously, Andrews, is going to need to be accompanied by somebody because of, she can't get around on her own.
She's going to do her best to flipping drag herself around. She's too stubborn not to.
But she's still going to need someone to lean on to help her get around. So
Yeah.
Before people disappear, can I steal as many tricorders and other equipment you may have as possible?
No.
Too late.
well, it's going to be a case of, at the very least, Natala would go, why?
Wow, so we're going to jumpstart technology with that?
We're not forcing technology on a pre-industrial race.
I'm not forcing it upon them, I'm not forcing it upon you.
Natala ventures that maybe Nova would care to elaborate. I know technically Navis was playing Natala in this instance, but I think that the question needs to be asked.
Yep.
Well, as the newly elected doctor, I think I need to jumpstart all of these cybernetics and get everyone back to 100%.
Ah.
It's my duty.
I'm pretty confident that although Dr. Bertram has a couple of broken ribs, he's still our acting doctor. Is that you are just his attending. As much as it's appreciated, I would much rather we find out what's going on locally.
Well, I don't speak that language.
Nova,
But you
I know
understand
exactly
emotions,
what you
Nova.
can do. Right? I'll introduce you to some of the kids and you can go and teach some dodgeball.
It's funny you should say that, because a couple of the kids are now actually starting to mosey around you guys. And Nova is getting... nobody's afraid of you guys. People are, warily cautious. But there's a lot of genuine interest.
Oh god, Nova's going to be buzzing on the emotion.
And
It's really not helping with the experiment. Science right now. Curiosity.
Caval feels someone small tugging on his trouser leg. And
What is it?
yeah, go on.
I'm just looking down to see what it is.
What it is, it's actually one of a small child who's asking you something, and Edwards, you get the you can translate this easily. Want to come play?
I think they're asking if you want to entertain them, Nova.
No, they're asking me. They're asking Kamal.
Yeah, and he probably wants to delegate. You're more their
Let's say no.
type.
But my friend over here with the blue hair, they like to play. Come on, let's get this monster and get this one out.
I was wondering, examining like the type of dress and the architectural styles, is it more appearing that they've been styled in certain ways, or it's more of a they've just thrown stuff together with how the way would actually kind of work?
No, these are pretty permanent-looking dwellings. I mean, they're at the
It's
foot of
more
a
to that-
mountain.
I'm trying to I was thinking using his cultural studies to try and work out if it's from any particular culture or blend of cultures, with running with the idea that I said if this might be original settlers do come together through crashing oil from different crews and different species, and I was trying to look into that kind of hypothesis. If clothing, mannerisms, the architecture sort of reflects that they could be a blending of specific cultures that have already exist in the known universe from these potential species.
Okay. So that's pretty much what Edwards is doing, is going around trying to get the lay of...
Yeah, it's
Culture.
looking more into that kind of hypothesis of, is this something new, or is this a divergence / blending of other species cultures?
Okay.
Reflecting in, like I said, how their clothes are, how they're structured, which is why I asked if is it just they put them together in the most logical way, or is it have they actually stylized it based off origins, culture?
Okay, so that's what Edwards is doing. Bertram is doing the investigating the plants. Kids are asking to play with some of you. Andrews wants to get the lay of the land from the locals, which would need somebody who can actually speak it. So that looks like it's going to be Natala, who's going to be the best conversationalist. So meanwhile...
Cabal's on dad duty.
I'm going up unsupervised, alright.
So, that basically
I
leaves Caval and Nova to do whatever. Okay.
I'll go with the children, I suppose, and teach them things that they shouldn't know.
Well, considering that these guys, as a species, seem to be quite tall, children their children are actually more like the size of preteens. So some of them are at the very least up to Nova's mid-shoulder.
So Nova's pretty short, so they're probably taller.
So they're all very interested, and yes, Nova, being the emotion junkie that she is, can start to feel a great wave of excitement as they anticipate a rather interesting game of tag or hide and seek, which Nova immediately knows that she's going to win because she can sense where everybody is. So, which basically leaves Cavall up to his own devices. So, if there's anything specific that Cavall wants to do, or just want to look around.
Well, I'll start by testing if static electricity works.
Okay.
We should have some fur from the hunt, I think. Well, these people probably do wear fur, so I just need something to rub against.
Aha.
Or fur with. Sounds a bit wrong.
I'm just going to post that same meme again. Oh my.
But I get where you're going with that. That's cool. So you're all trying different things. Yep. Before
Cavall's the new Kirk.
Cavall, have a pattern enhancer. It solves every other problem we have.
At the moment, the pattern enhancer is just this big metal tube on a tripod. So.
Oh, a club, eh?
Oh, so you'll give him the technology to play with? God.
So I'm a responsible individual.
Yeah.
Doing science.
Nova, I've got. See, we'll give the dangerous technology to the responsible Cavall. Whereas Nova, I think we get some vines together to tie up.
A bit like Shizane. Halfway across the town now.
Whee! Right then. So starting off with who we starting off. We started off with Bertram. So we're looking at the plant life. Well, that's just going to be. Let's see. Science. Insight with botany focus.
Botany.
I'm giving you a difficulty 1 for this.
And I got 1.
1 success, so on the money. Alright. The plant life around here is the kind that these guys are obviously using for not exactly decoration, but for, shade. For what the plant itself, for what the trees themselves can give. The plants themselves are mostly the harmless variety, weeds and various other bushes. But a couple do bear some strange colorations. Some of them have divergent leaf patterns. Some of them even on the same plant. I've got divergent shapes in their leaves and stuff like that. Which suggests that there is something that's causing very definite mutation in biological life. How localized it is difficult to tell.
Yeah.
But there's summit going on.
Summit about.
So, who was next? Right, I'm going to answer another sciencey question from the cultural standpoint. Edwards was looking at the manner of dress and the construction of the buildings. Everything is pretty uniform. The buildings were all constructed from locally sourced wood and are all built in the same style, which are various degrees of wood and mud huts to fully constructed wooden buildings.
Does the style reflect any other cultures in the universe that you...
No. This is your basic pre-industrial society.
Okay.
They possess... There's nothing that stands out as, oh, this is maybe got hints of Boolean architecture or stuff like that. There's nothing to suggest that. Same in their manner of dress. It's all plants and animal hides and anything. Local resources have been made into attire, and without much in the way of flourish at all. It's all Who was next? Right, Nova is going around on a tag tournament, seeing who can rack up the most wins, and surprise, surprise, it's going to be Nova.
If it is hide and seek, then she's going to be trying to figure out where the kids don't want to go. So, like, are they afraid of the waterfall or certain buildings? Because then that's where she's going to gravitate towards to try and gain bigger reactions. But also, she wants to start sampling the food, the water, because she's never had real meat before. So she's going to be sampling everything and encouraging the kids to do the same.
All right, then.
To cause utter chaos in the camp.
Well, Nova gets kind of semi-distracted when she actually gets to the village centre, which is obviously where the main congregation is happening, because that's where all the food's being prepared in this general area. And I'm sure it's escaped nobody's notice. In the middle of the town's or the village's central square, an obelisk of dark stone juts from the ground. It's covered with runes and carvings that look familiar to you. It's the same sort of technology you've seen on Bacchus 4 and elsewhere, but on a smaller scale.
Does it seem to have the same patterning of circuitry?
Indeed.
That's definitely getting licked as well as we go around the camp.
Well, the way you're playing with the kids, they probably wouldn't notice it. Adults, though, might.
Well, I just pretend I'm hiding behind it and I'm just shit at hiding.
Like,
Aha!
Yeah, but Nova's small in amongst people who are very tall. I think we're pretty much pretending Nova's a kid at this point.
Pretending?
yeah? Well, in that case, then, like, that would imply that we're all kind of kids. We're all roughly that kind of size, comparatively.
We are, but we're acting mature, and some kids said, "Can we come play?" And we pointed at her off to go play.
But she is like 5 foot nothing, thinking her character sheet.
So hiding is her strong point in this place,
Yep.
because everything's very tall. Right, who was next? Let's go quickly with Caval's attempts to create static. You can. Caval can use the his own uniform and start rubbing it up against any of the animal hides with fur on them that are out there curing or have yet to be have the fur scraped off, and you can actually generate static electricity. You can feel the hairs on the back of his hand lifting up. So that is possible. There is a windmill, and people are burning fuel. So it seems these people are are starting to make technological strides. Whether or not, so you're. Let me try and summarize this without going off on a tangent. Your best surmise at this point would be that it seems to be whatever interference is around that's shut down your technology. With what you've learned here, it would suggest that there's something in the atmosphere that's affecting electronics, which would suggest something along the lines of electromagnetics interference. Is that sufficient to what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. So, now on to Andrews and Natala. So, was there anything specific you were going to try and get out of these people? It was asking them about if there'd been any other strangers before, I think, if I recall? Or am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, pretty much that. It's just trying to gather an understanding of the culture from the people. And,
Okay.
Well, whether, have they always been here?
Okay.
Have they seen anyone recently travel along? Sort of like, has there been any kind of things from the stars previously? Or have they ever seen anything fall from the stars?
So you're basically asking if anyone else has crashed here and in their memory. Okay, that's fine. Natala, of course, is still trying to get to grips with the differences in the language. So Natala able to form complex sentences is a bit airy-fairy. But the overall impression you get from asking the people is that, in general, no, you're the first folks that look like you that they've ever seen. This village has been here for at least 5 generations, because it's at the foot of a mountain, it's near to a forest, it's got its own water supply. So their great-great-grandparents who originally moved here thought that this was a great spot, and they've built their village and used the local resources wisely, and they get occasional visits from other folks from other nearby villages who are wandering around to trade. They don't have any kind of currency system, but this at least suggests that they have a barter system going. So they have an idea of value, material value. But other than that, the general impression you get is that you are the first off-worlders that they've seen. So, with that in mind, with a lot of you mingling around, I'm going to take it as read that you all eventually either see or learn about the monolith in the middle of the village gathering area.
Sounds fine to me.
So, do you want me to move you guys to there, or are you going to continue mingling around?
I'll assume at some point I was examining this tree, turned around and go, oh, that's a monolith!
Well, you know, I sometimes imagine Bertram as being very monotask, very focused.
Yeah.
So it could be a case of he does wander up to that tree and the rest are like, Doc,
Good.
behind you, Doc.
Good. A divergent tree and a monolith, which I'm significantly less impressed with.
What about if it was a mossolith?
Aha.
Is it a monolith?
Oh yes, Nova, pardon me. Ah, dang it. I did say that if I ended up doing it, I would lower the threat level. I did it. There it goes.
Yay!
Didn't take long.
This is why you started calling her Erienne last week.
Yeah, I was getting around my own rule. I tripped myself up again. There we are. Fair's fair. I said I would do it. I did it. Nova was sampling the local foods. Yeah. Mostly local rodents and local birds. They do cook a lot of plants, vegetables, so it's not wholly meat. But obviously these guys are all pretty big, pretty tall. So they probably need a lot of meat as well in their diet to keep them nice and big. So the boar-like creature that you downed earlier on your hunt has certainly gone down a storm, and that's being cooked. But yeah, there's a lot of very tasty meats. They've got a rudimentary, I say rudimentary, they've got a fairly good...
In that thing that was full of sort of mutations and tumours.
You didn't hunt that thing, that was attack. That was a different animal.
Okay, that's alright then. I was just going to say, because I can't see any way that would go back.
Oh, I'm assuming that you didn't bring that back with you.
No, I don't think it would be the best.
Enough, but then in theory it should be okay.
Yeah, let's not sort of like, let's put that plan on the back burner, shall we?
So yeah, Nova is enjoying herself immensely as she's sampling various different snack foods. I mean, they've got various different spices and herbs that they use, mostly herbs because it's mostly vegetable around here. So yeah, it's very tasty.
Is there anything on the monolith that reminds Natala of how we turned off the previous ones?
I don't recall you ever turning off previous ones.
It's also implying it's on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely on.
Should Shall we ask the locals about the monolith before we start playing with it? You know, if it's some sort of sacred
Yeah.
monument to them.
I already
They
looked
might-
at that.
Yeah.
No, that sounds reasonable.
They might get offended.
You do notice that the runes and the glyphs and the circuit work on the monolith is glowing. It's not glowing brightly, but there's a definite illumination, which suggests, from previous experience, a power source. So this one is lit and is kind of glowing slightly. Asking the locals about it, they will say that it's always been here. A couple of them... Go on, sorry.
As I ask, has it always been glowing?
Well, they say that at random times it glows with a strange light, but that quickly subsides. Can I get a...
Quick, run a cable from it into some kind of electronic device.
Right, so where are you going to get a cable from? Oh wait, you brought the adapter, didn't you?
Yep.
Uh-huh. Okay. While you guys are doing that, I am going to ask for Andrews to give me a presence and command aided by Edwards's, let me see, reason and science with xenolinguistics as a focus, as you ask questions that you want to ask about the monolith, and see if you can get any other information out of them. Steer the conversation in ways you want it to go. I'm going to make this difficulty 1. So that's 1 success already, so anything that Edwards gets is gravy.
So when it gets 2 complications.
Well, he's only rolling 1 dice, so if he gets 2 complications, I'll be very impressed. So yeah, Alex, rolling 1 dice because you're assisting.
Okay. Was that presence and command?
Not for you, no. This would be reason and science because you're translating the questions that
Ah, right.
Andrews is asking.
So, will I use my focus?
Yes.
Okay. 1 dice, use focus. Just.
1. So, you get 1 success over what you needed, so you're back up to 6 per bedtime. Groovy. One of the... let me reset, hang on. Brain. Okay. As you're asking this question about the monolith, Niseri, who's nearby, volunteers that there's similar runes being seen on the walls of a nearby cave. But the moment she mentions that, one of the elders nearby makes a kind of a hissing sound, as if to say, as if to indicate, shush, shut up. But because you got that success, Niseri just kind of ignores the elder and says that the townsfolk like to steer clear of that place because they believe something dangerous lives inside of it. But if you ask anybody, Niseri is still saying that if you ask anybody in town about what that dangerous thing in the cave is, you'll get a different story for each different person you ask. So, with that in mind, let's jump over to what Fazanan and Nova were up to. Yes, that shifty-looking Pasquale villager too, yes.
Why can't he be more like Pasquale villager number 3?
But number 6 still owes me money.
No, you owe him money.
No, that's not how I remember it.
So, Nova and Thazanan are trying science by trying to use the leads on the universal interface to connect it to a technological device of some sort. So, which of your many devices did you want to try and siphon this energy into?
H31L0.
You want to actually try and activate the alien computer? Okay.
Nobody's gonna stop me.
Okay.
One way, Commander Andrews. I'm supervising.
Andrews tries to get up and just like
Nova.
Right, so, let's see. This isn't usually in Caval's wheelhouse, although Caval does have security protocols, so might be able to.
Nova will do all the hard lifting, yes.
And you're just going to hold the wires there.
Yes, I'll take the electrocution if it happens.
he'll press the on button.
Okay.
I contributed.
So this is going to be very much daring and engineering off the both of you, I would think. Nova definitely gets to add the tinkering experimentation focus. And I think Nova's going to be the lead on this one. So, Lieutenant Thazanan can contribute using the same. This is going to be difficulty. This is going to be 2, but I'm going to spend a threat to up the complication range.
I'm gonna spend a determination on trying anything once.
Okay.
So I haven't got to try this yet.
Meanwhile, Andrews is just trying to drag herself.
Yeah, desperately trying to stop herself.
Sorry. No. That should have been 1 dice.
Okay, we'll take the 3.
Oh.
We'll take the first dice, which is a 3, which is 1 success. So there we go. Cool.
Nova to do it then.
So now it's Nova. 4 successes, 5 successes. I said it was, what, 3?
Yeah.
So you got 2 over... It's just as well that I ignored that second roll, because that second roll would have been a complication. So that was over and above what you needed. So, let me think. You're connecting a universal adapter wire up to the monolith to see if you can draw power off of it. Now, these wires, as I'm trying to talk myself through this, these wires are usually meant for data interface, but that does mean that they do channel electricity up and down in order to get readings. So, it's not the biggest stretch. You're just trying to basically see, all you're trying to do is see if you can get a charge off of the monolith into the device.
Yeah.
With that many successes...
Communicates with it all the far fun.
Okay. 2 things happen. 1, the hello basically lights up for a minute. Not for a minute, he lights up for all of a second before it fizzles out, and you actually hear a bit of a pop from somewhere inside of hello, and you can smell something like a circuit burning. So you did manage to channel some energy through, but you reckon with that many successes, the ambient electromagnetic interference in the air shorted out one of the electronic circuits in the interface. However, something does happen.
Oh dear.
With the slightest hum and vibration, the obelisk sparks to life. A blue light travels up the stone, lighting the rooms from the bottom to the top. None of the townsfolk seem concerned until one of the town elders collapses, moaning in obvious pain. Then another falls, a young boy standing next to his father. Then another falls. Soon, a dozen people are lying on the ground, writhing in pain.
help. But Bertram's going straight into running field medic mode and trying to actually work out what's wrong and see if he can do something to help them.
Yeah, and Andrews is going to order Nova to do exactly the opposite of what she's just done.
Pull the thing away from the monolith. Yep. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to ask is for somebody, probably Bertram, give me a reason plus medicine task with a difficulty of 2. I'm going to allow genetics to be a focus here.
Oh, genetics. Does anyone mind if I use a point of momentum?
Take it.
Am I right to say? Point of momentum, does that add an extra dice, was it? Or am I misremembering that?
If you
Just
use
stick the
momentum, you can
momentum
add a dice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So momentum's currently on 6. There we go, down to 5.
Ah, crap.
Right, so you got 2 successes, which was enough, but you get a complication. Okay.
What is that, Dave?
The problem is that the victim that Bertram is currently examining is going through some kind of rapid genetic mutation.
Okay, I'll say that out loud.
This
Does it
could
look like it could be radiation based?
Well, at the moment, what you've just surmised, these people can survive with immediate attention that could involve medication and surgical techniques.
Right, okay, so
But
I assume that Bertram is relaying that information.
Yeah, everything I find out I'm going to
Yeah.
be saying out loud.
So Andrews, in the best of state that she can, will order that everyone else, bar Cavall and Nova, assist in getting the locals as far away as possible from the obelisk.
this is proving difficult because some of them are writhing around in pain. But
Yes.
yeah, the ones that are standing can indeed. You're obviously trying to help, so they will back up. But some of them are obviously wanting to stay with their loved ones and refuse to move.
That's the thing,
but-
is to get them to drag their loved ones away from it as well.
So even the ones that are themselves writhing around in pain, you want to move everyone else as far away from the obelisk as possible. Okie dokie.
Yes.
So let's get folks moving backwards.
Another question:
Go on.
if Bertram thinks it's radiation based, a good precursor to know that you get radiation poisoning is you can taste iron in your blood. Iron in your mouth is because of your blood vessels bursting in your mouth. So, can any of us taste iron?
At this point, I would say yes.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, even even chat has just has jumped in and says that sounds brutal. Yes, it does, because it is. So, yes, you're asking people to all move backwards, so everyone is grabbing who they can to drag them away from the glowing monolith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to translate it and just like.
Yep.
Trying to get herd people over the river, basically, over this bit.
Yep. Alrighty. Trying to put the water between you and it.
And Natala's shouting out, "Bad rock, scary."
Okay. Yep.
Bad
Bad rock, scary, dangerous. Get away from Bad rock.
Bad wolf.
I'd like to point out that Andorians have got a high metabolism, so that's going to affect Cavall in this situation.
Yeah, at the moment you're okay, but you don't know how much radiation you're taking on, so,
Are any of the people I'm examining looking particularly bad? Because I do have 1 dose of high religion.
well, yeah, the guy that you jumped down to examine, he's in the throes of agony. He can't get up.
Okay, can I try applying that high religion to see if that'll help at least stop him getting any worse?
Okay, so, this is you trying to treat a patient with limited and primitive things, so I'm going to need
If it helps, I've got field medicine, which ignores any increase in difficulty for working without proper tools or equipment.
Cool, so that means you take that difficulty 3 down to a difficulty 2. I need you to make a control and medicine task.
Okay. I'll try. Can I use a point of determination to do balance of science and nature, given what I'm doing?
You've got 2 determination left, so you can spend one of them. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Determination, focus, and I'll take it. My focus is still kicking in.
Yeah. 4 successes, which means you got over and above what you needed. Nice.
Whew.
So you've treated that one. But this has proven that local plants and herbs can, in fact, alleviate some of the symptoms that these guys are having. So I'm going to need somebody to give me a daring and science task with a difficulty of 2 to locate various plants, herbs, fungus, etc. that can be used. Obviously, Bertram can help in this by calling out what needs to be looked for.
As a science officer, I'll say
Science
that's
and daring
probably
sounds like a Nova
Natala's
job.
Everyone's busy.
Natala knows Feckle.
Perhaps having our survival expert helping.
What can I roll
Yeah.
to? Is it science and insight? help?
Yes.
Would you
Absolutely.
say science and daring for everyone else?
Science and daring for everyone else, yes, to rush about and try and find the right plants.
Is it 1 for assisting or 2? It's 1, isn't it?
1 for assisting. So that's 1 success.
Oh, 3 off.
6. You've spent so far 1, 2, 3, 4 dice. One more person can try this, and you will need to get the success. That 1 success in order to.
Can I burn the determination of survival at any cost?
Yeah.
There we go then. So single dice using determination should auto pass, I believe.
So there you go. Well done. So
Generate
working
2
together.
successes.
Generate 2 successes, yes indeed. So over and above what you needed, but you got it. So yes, with Bertram yelling out what type of plants, fungus, anything to look for, the rest of you cast about looking. Natala, botany's not exactly her wheelhouse, so she needs to yell out, what do they look like? Edwards similarly is like, is that one? Is that one? Is that one? At which point Bertram is there going, no, they have this coloration and this type of... You'll be looking for this kind of coloration. They will smell like this. Some of them, if you pick up the root, give it a lick, and if it tastes like this, then it's good. If it's not, then, spit it out whenever you do. So Bertram is basically firing out orders. Everyone is casting around, trying to get a grip on what's going on, and it takes Andrews to go, look, for heaven's sake, everybody calm down, get a grip, let's do this orderly. And so it takes the commanding officer to get everybody to settle, to try and calm the adrenaline a little bit, to get everybody going. Oh, the green one, lick it. Yes, thank you, Ars Animus. Remember to spit it out after you lick it.
Bertram's definitely gonna make an argument for people joining his lectures more often.
Don't be surprised, however, if your tongue goes slightly numb.
Because, yes, lick that one, Nova. It's a sedative.
Nova's busy. She hasn't left the obelisk.
Right. The difficulty you're now facing is that some of these people, even though they're now away from the pulsing monolith, is that they need help. That was all you guys. Definitely painted a picture in my head. Didn't we just? Didn't we just?
I think at this point is that Andrews will be ordering Nova to get back. Is that her 20 to someone else?
In either case, Bertram needs to operate on some of them because these mutations are going to need to be excised because they're obviously hurting people. For that, you're going to need something to operate on people with. So, we are going to need... This is probably where Nova could come in, actually. I'm gonna need somebody to give me a presence and engineering task with a difficulty of 2. No, pardon me. Pardon me. Yes, with a difficulty of 2 to calm the villagers while gathering equipment and fashioning implements that can be used in emergency surgeries. So it's going to need a combination of factors here.
I'll be able to help with the calming, but not the fashioning.
I can help with the fashioning.
You may have used my Shaun as a knife/scalpel.
Yeah, you can offer that up. It's a bit of a wide. It's almost like I always imagine Ushantor's like pizza cutters almost, which is doing the Ushantor a disservice, of course. But yeah, it would be useful for being able to cut somebody open, but it wouldn't be very good for like small stuff. So obviously you can still work together to do this. So who wants to be the primary?
Natala can get a 9 on the... Sorry, Natala's relatively experienced with the engineering stuff.
So...
Unless somebody else is.
So...
Well, we treat this as 2 different roles or 1. As I said, I can help try and calm people down.
So you can do the presence and command.
Oh, it's presence and command. To translate.
Well, presence and command to try and calm people down. Yes.
In that case, no. Well,
if you're translating, then you'll be doing...
You'll be translating.
You'll be doing insight and science.
You'll be translating, so I'm not commanding.
Somebody can assist with a presence and command in order to try and, calm everybody down. I am going to need the primary to give me a daring and engineering. Insight and engineering could be made as well to try and fashion some tools.
Who's being my primary then for trying to calm them?
I'll be primary for the tools. Command is probably a commander.
So we've got Natala rolling 2 dice. We've got Edwards rolling 1 dice for translating. We've got potentially Andrews rolling 1 dice to try and calm everybody. We got someone else who can assist if they wish with 1 dice doing something else. Maybe Val was offering his weapon up, so that could be control and security for Caval.
Do you want me to roll a presence command 1 dice as well? Whilst arguing with Nova.
That was the wrong. That did not roll the right number of dice. I don't know why.
Nuts.
Alright.
You're having one of those days.
2 successes from Natala.
2 successes from Natala.
Ignore the previous roll.
Okay. 2 successes from Caval, so Caval is able to...
Once again, swinging into save our necks.
Yep. Caval, being an expert, able to expertly wield the Ushantor in a manner that allows Bertram to maybe direct him to help him basically perform surgery with a bladed weapon. So Andrews, however, as you do. Andrews, however, is trying to do 2 things at once. Is trying to yell at Nova to come away from the radiation pulsing monolith, while Nova's curiosity is getting the better of her. So, yeah, Andrews is just
from the consequences of exertion. When only
You
part of
accidentally
her lung can brain work.
You're so authoritative, she's coughed up the half of the lung.
So I am going to knock down some stress off of Andrews because, yeah, you're exhausting yourself trying to do this. So I am, for the foreseeable future, I'm now knocking Andrews down to a, not exactly a quarter, but definitely less of stress.
Third. It's just under a third.
Yeah, so there we are, a a third stress now because you are overexerting yourself.
Were you really glad you took Resolute?
I am going to ask Nova to give me a fitness and science check, please. And I'm not going to tell you what the difficulty is.
All I'm going to say is, if you do a Doc Hart, it's your own fault.
Doc Hart or Doc Samson? And there's our next cross-franchise quote of the night.
Technically, Doc Hart's a cross-franchise for Steamweave.
Nope, that's a good point.
Only Shaun and Navis will get the reference.
1 success. Okay.
Nothing of value was lost.
No.
2 stress gone from Nova, not to be recovered. Okay. All right then. So, right, because the Doc himself is injured, he is less able to actually perform a lot of the surgeries himself that require effort. So that's where Caval comes in with his Ushantor. So anyone that needs to be opened up that requires a bit of physical exertion will need, pardon me while I scratch my nose, will need Caval's help. Some small sharp tools that you can use as makeshift scalpels have been fashioned by Natala. So Bertram is going to be able to operate with... it's going to be a bit rude. You're going to have to feed these people drugs and apply the plants that can provide numbing agents to do some surgery. Let's see. So, this is where we do the surgery. So, Doc, a control and medicine task of difficulty... now, ordinarily, it would be difficulty 2 because of your ability to ignore difficulty with not having the right tools. I am going to knock off a threat to put it back up to 3.
Okay.
Spend the momentum, Doc. Spend the momentum.
Yeah, I'll spend the momentum, and I think I'm also going to burn the last of my determination, because basically we came in intending not to break the Prime Directive, and our messing around has directly basically threatened the life of these people. So Bertram is basically throwing everything he has to try and stop any of them from actually dying because of our thing. So
go for it, sir.
Momentum and determination. Right. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
Got all my fingers crossed for you.
4 successes.
Woo, baby.
Oh man, am I glad I used that determination.
So yes, everyone is very impressed with how Doc Bertram works. In fact, Bertram works himself. I'm not going to say to death because that would be. No, he works himself to the point of exhaustion.
Taking some stress for the broken rib and running around.
Yeah, so you are going to take a stress for that, but that's a stress that will be recovered. So I may as well give it back because that'll, as soon as you get rest, as soon as this is gone, that stress will come back. But that will be a stress-inducing exertion that you will have gone through. But the fact that Bertram is able to excise these mutations as they're occurring, and can then sew people up using like boiling water, clean blankets and stuff like that. Wow.
Do you know, when I created the character at the beginning and did the whole, he likes to blend technology and more natural and unconventional things, it was supposed to be backstory. I'm so glad I took these now.
So, eventually, the monolith stops pulsing. Nova can definitely taste iron. In fact, she feels a trickle of blood come from one nostril. But the monolith does eventually stop radiating.
Is her skin tingling?
I would say yes.
She's like worn down the enamel on some of her teeth.
Yeah, that doesn't happen straight away. Does she have sort of like a nice sun-kissed glow to her?
She certainly has ruddy cheeks. Let's put it that way.
No, you might want to
Didn't actually get any information out of playing with it.
Did you say you might want to put her down?
No, that's just my personal feelings.
What was Nova looking for exactly on this?
Well, she was ordered to do the reverse of what she'd just done, so she was going to be trying to use the adapter, bypass the blown circuitry, so it's more of a direct link into the tricorder to try and trace it back and shut it down.
Okay.
And now we turn it back on.
This is while it was on. This is why she's been there.
Okay, so let's see how successful you were at that. Give me daring and engineering. With your focus, of course.
Mm-hmm. Also gonna pop that.
Testing a theory. When you attempt a task using engineering science, you may roll one additional d20 as long as you succeed at a previous task, overcoming which you did. So, yep. All right then. You will get another dice for free. Six successes. 2 of them were ones. My God. Wow. All right. You were certainly instrumental in the monolith shutting down when it did, as you were able to create some kind of odd, not exactly a feedback pulse, but a pulse of energy that fed back into the monolith, and that seemed to you don't 6 successes. You can get a lot of information from that. So, from the way it acted, you don't think you've shut it down because traces of the energy are still lingering in the runes and the etchings on the monolith. But you think the best equivalent you could hypothesize for it would be you managed to shunt it into standby mode.
Is there a possibility that she was able to track it back to the larger version? Because
I will give you that because you connected it to a tricorder. For the flicker of an instant, the tricorder does come back to life, but you will burn out this tricorder doing this.
Yeah.
Because you expose it to the electromagnetics. So for a flicker of a moment, the tricorder registers the power down pulse that goes through the monolith, and the tricorder registers a direction that the pulse travels in before it fizzles out and pops. And if you ask anybody what's in that direction, they will tell you it's the cave that they mentioned earlier. Whew. So, in the meantime, the villagers are all banding together. Now, a couple of them are obviously a bit angry. They're asking why this happened and why, you guys were doing something with the monolith and all of a sudden this happened when it hasn't happened this violently before. So some of the older ones are obviously rather upset, but this is kind of counteracted by the way that the others, especially the ones that are relatives or have relationships with the ones that you saved. They obviously appreciate the fact that you guys saved them using means and methods that they weren't familiar with. So there's a bit of a balance in the in the discussion going on with the village folk at the moment. From what Edwards can translate, they are basically trying to. They're all scared, and they're wondering what to do next. The elders seem to be afraid that this is going to happen again, And will continue unless someone finds a way of stopping it.
From what they said then, it sounds like this has occurred before. Perhaps you can glean as to when it happened, Mr. Edwards.
Okay.
I can try my best. Try to.
Yep. It's a straightforward question.
Yeah.
Bertram
Ask
makes
it.
sure to retake the Hierolycan and put it back into the container so that it doesn't cause any problems. Yes, indeed. Yeah, the
making sure you knew that I hadn't forgotten about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You had to, you probably cut off some samples of it in order to try and treat the fact that the radiation, you think, triggered those the mutations to run wild.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. I noticed that Andrews is using the radioactive condition.
Yeah. So I think we established that what was uses once it finished and absorbed the radiation, it was to be put back in its fin so that it could either be disposed or the radiation burned off in a safe location.
Yes.
So, plus, I don't really want any traces of this to accidentally leak into the
Local
environment.
fauna, yeah.
You went slapped Nova with some of it as she sat there at the heart of it.
Well, it's used now, so it's now actually, if I pull it, it basically be putting radioactive stuff into her because it can only absorb so much. It's why I have to later on dispose or burn to cleanse it, but I can't really do that while I don't have the equipment.
That's a point. Another point of stress goes off Nova.
Has she actually come back from the monolith yet?
Shaun?
No, probably not.
Even though she's now disobeyed an order twice.
Yep.
So,
Can I suggest that one of you collects our lieutenant before she faces disciplinary action?
Might be time for Natala to go be mum, and maybe the doctor to insist on medical grounds.
Right.
Yeah, I'll probably
Meanwhile-
limp her after
Okay.
Natala.
Go as
Yes, go
well.
on.
I
In
grab
case they need
Nova
muscle.
by the ear
Good point.
and drag her back.
Yeah, Cavall might need to go as well, just to provide muscle. And whilst those guys are gone, Edwards was asking a question. Has this happened before? It hasn't happened to this extent. They all agree that the monolith occasionally does pulse to life. Before, people have just seen it pulse and then just go dark again. It's never pulsed to this magnitude before.
Commander, as I relay it back to her, to state the obvious, as you've seen so far, these things have been here for a purpose. I'm wondering if this is more of an experimentation on radiation mutation, because that would explain the nature of all and the differences in a lot of the people here. A slight induced amount of radiation spread out would potentially, well, I'm guessing, I need the doctor to confirm this, would potentially cause these generational mutations. So it would also explain what happened over there. Potentially, whatever Nova did might have kicked it into overdrive.
Yes, I was coming to a similar
Conclusion.
conclusion.
Okay. So, what would you like to do?
One would assume that the source of the main spike of radiation is going to be coming from the cave area, which would possibly be where that creature came from. If there's been a level of instability in the recent times, that may be showing why animals are undergoing a rapid genetic mutation.
I'm wondering if it's when there's a similar situation to Bacchus, when the planet was sort of like grew around the device itself.
Potentially.
Okay. So, what are you going to do? I mean,
questions. Ask where the cave is.
okay, yep, they can give you directions. If people don't want to, then Naseri will be the one who will volunteer to actually escort you there.
When we get up to Nova, is Nova showing any signs of sort of like radiation, sickness or damage?
She was certainly standing at ground zero.
Yeah.
And Betazoids, to my knowledge, are no more resistant to radiation than most humanoids, so one can
I'll
only
give
assume.
I'll give Nova a quick look.
It's only free run.
Can I give Nova a quick examination to see if she's been sort of like messed up badly? If I can see any obvious signs of it.
At the moment, you don't think she is. Well, she's obviously she's absorbed radiation. That seems obvious. The fact that the monolith has now gone quiet is at least a good sign in that Nova's not absorbing any more. But without equipment to tell you how long she's got, you definitely want to see Nova get to back onto the Navis as soon as possible, because she's more than likely taken on a lot of radiation. So that's going to have detrimental effects to her health over time.
Okay.
Just posted this Matt and Gareth reference.
Looking on there.
She's just about in the acute radiation syndrome.
Right.
Symptoms of ARS may include nausea, vomiting, headache, and diarrhea. I think at least 3 of those is what Nova has caused Andrews in the last 10 minutes.
So, yes, they point you in the direction of the cave. So now it becomes down to you guys, if there's any special preparations you want to make, if there's any plans, contingencies, anything you want to put down, now's the time.
Need more moss, but I don't think we have any.
Oh, we have plenty. It's on the ship.
Yeah, I meant down here.
Well, yeah, if we could get to the ship, then a lot of our problems would be solved.
Well, sadly, we can't fly or build a big ladder.
Well, the moss isn't really in a position to help us then, is it? What Bertram might do is take a few samples of some of the mutated, or sort of like the plants, both that were in the area of the monolith and that were further away. Because he did see earlier there was sort of like divergent mutative signs over time from them.
Okay.
He can't really study them properly now, but they make interesting study back on the ship if we ever get back.
For now, we need to move as a group to the cave. Mr. Edwards, I would ask that you tell the populace here that the blue light from the stone is a potential sickness causer.
Okay.
They try and stay clear for the interim.
I'd also recommend the food around here too.
Yes, I would also recommend that they move their food cooking away from the monolith.
Okay. All of which can be easily done. So, we break away from that for the moment to go back to orbit. Well, more specifically, back to the bridge. So, Admiral Stoker is now ordering the crew to disable the Walcott.
Unfortunately, the main computer's locked out, so they can't fire weapons.
So, yes, Stoker races up to the navigation station and is haranguing Ensign Lenny about bringing us about ready to fire on the Walcott.
I think that Bravo is going to step in at this point and attempt to arrest.
Hopefully the security team that he's alerted coming in at this point.
Why not? It's Natique time!
Oh, can Natique just run through the door and just sort of
spear him? Why not? Let's make it a team effort, eh? It's gonna be...
Oh, I can double team.
3D!
You can
It
double
seems
team.
something to pay
Bravo.
my Lieutenant.
Yeah.
It's 3D!
Bravo
picks
picks
him
him
up,
up. Bravo
and
picks
then
him up, and
Teak-
the team just
Teak
slams him
slams
down.
Oh,
Alright,
God.
so this is gonna be a daring and security check. One being the primary, one being the assist, and it's gonna be against Stoker's the same.
I think Natik
I'd
is
say-
actually better at daring, so Natik just sees the opportunity and goes
I
for
would
it.
go for security, bro, because he can use his value. My duty is to protect the crew.
If it all goes wrong, then Machude can come to the rescue.
I am going to get Stoker to spend her determination.
The security plus
And-
daring, he said.
And I'm gonna use one of her focuses on this, I'm not saying which one.
Would I be able to use focus hand-to-hand combat?
Yep,
And said, will I be able to use the value, protect the crew?
yep.
Oh dear God. Spend
Right,
momentum.
so that's what you're up against.
We've still got
it's
the
all on
assist.
the teak. It's all on the teak.
Spend the momentum, Natik.
Whoever wants to roll, you take 3 points off to get 2 dice. No, you can't, can you? There's only
Yeah.
1 extra dice you can take.
No.
So whoever wants to roll,
sorry.
do you want to, Jan?
That was daring and security.
Yes, indeed, by Natik.
Does he have hand to hand? He has
With a
hand-to-hand
focus
combat
in
as well,
hand to
so he can
hand.
use his fo- and spend his momentum. Come on, Natik.
Focus. That's 2 dice, right?
2 dice.
Oh, 3 with momentum.
No, 2 with
Just-
momentum.
Oh, no, but you can't.
That's
Okay,
fine.
so I'm saying that you can't.
Or do we roll that?
You can't spend momentum if you're not the primary.
So,
Value?
he's not the primary, he's the assistant.
Oh, I didn't know that. Else I would have grabbed an extra dice. I thought anyone could use momentum.
Well, you already did Bravo as the primary, or was Natik the
Yeah.
primary?
No, it was going to be Bravo, but I thought the assistant could take momentum as well. So, but it's too late now.
Ooh, it's in that case, it's a score draw. So nobody gets the upper hand. Bravo tackles Stoker, Natik jumps onto Stoker as well. And Stoker is holding her own, so...
Machude, can you put the Stoker in the ring, please?
Well, I mean, you got your tactical officer. Do you want the tactical officer to get involved in this now as well?
Pile on.
Yeah, why not? Ah! He wants to roll for Direxia.
So this time, it's going to be a brand new one. So Stoker, once again, using her determination and her focus. Let's see if I roll better or worse this time.
I'll nab the momentum.
Oh!
Oh my
Jeez.
God.
I'm rolling so much better. Right, so this is somebody's going to be the primary. That was Bravo,
2 successes.
Natik, and so 3 successes. You need 3 more. So Natik and Ensign Oradas. So both Natik and Ensign Oradas roll 1 each because they are assisting. I'm not sure Oradas has got. She's got
No, she
combat tactics, so she can go with this. Oh
Ooh.
no!
Oh, Natik.
No. Come on, Bravo. Roll a bunch of ones.
No, it's
Oh, you roll 1-1.
Direxia,
Oh.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Direxia, one single dice, security daring, and you said it was Starship. She used Starship combat tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Has she done it? 1 success, which means Stoker wins.
Yeah.
Stoker throws off everybody. Wee, wee, wee.
And then just disappears in a teleportation beam.
And basically makes a run for it.
Security Bravo, shut off all lifts and soon lock down any Jeffrey tubes from this level.
Right, so... Actually, she's not going to make a run for it. The tactical officer has left her station, so Stoker's going for the tactical station.
I'm sorry, the computer operation request is not available at the moment.
Which is a darned good point.
She doesn't know that, though.
She doesn't know that.
No.
It's a distraction. We can jump her again.
No, this is the point the camera switches to above her. She looks up and goes, "Fuck!"
At which point Lechude drops down from the vent above.
Everyone dropped from the...
He was there all along.
We haven't seen a Jude. Is he a plant?
So you just been waiting.
You just see this mustache just come down from
Right.
the roof and just tie her up and lift her up into the sky. And you just,
I'd stay, but a mustache. No
Ensign
way.
Jenny sees all this going on, draws her phaser, puts it on stun, and shoots her.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Alright, yep. That's gonna be, let me see, that's gonna be control and security with a difficulty of 2.
This is gonna be fun.
spend the momentum, Jenny. Spend the momentum.
Yep.
Can we kind of claim stellar phenomena?
No, but nice try.
She's got a dodge, doesn't she?
I feel the stars are aligned in my favour. Shoots her with a phaser. 3 successes, which means you got 1 over and above what you needed. If you want, you can spend that extra one that you just earned on an extra damage dice.
Yes. Or can you not? Or could you use it for a knockdown? Or was that the other
it's
dice?
type 3.
Go on then, let's get a damage dice.
So,
that becomes a 4.
Yep. It's been set to stun, so 3 successes and an effect. So 1, 2, 3, and a knockdown. So she's she's knocked onto the floor.
Security attacks it.
Pile on.
Do you want
The
to spend
sensor
momentum
officer
now?
just-
Technically, this is kind of an initiative step, so one of you guys have gone. Technically, it would be Stoker's turn next. Does somebody want to spend momentum to keep the initiative?
Why not?
Yeah.
I think it's 2? Or is it 1? Jan, help.
It's 2.
Hey,
So somebody else can go next and try and take out restrain Stoker.
Is Vibers in the initiative? Because I really think the Vibers kind of like, I'm going to unlock the security control, and then Mr. Latude, please beam Admiral Stoker to
Break.
to the brig.
yep. That's 5 action.
Okay. So that's Vibers telling Latude. It's basically Vibers giving
Transporters
Latude
are
the initiative.
operational.
Yeah.
I've given Latude the initiative and transporters are back online.
So somebody be Latude and give me a control plus engineering with focus
Webby,
on
because
transporter operations.
Webby as Andrew's starting to have a budding bromance for Latude.
No, because I rolled as direct here. Sean hasn't rolled.
Sean hasn't rolled. Sean, can you be the Navis for me? Because the Navis assists with this kind of thing.
Right. What
Which
about
means
Gareth
that the
and
Navis needs to use... what is it for transporters? It's sensors and engineering, I think. Or is it structure and engineering? We'll go with sensors because you're using sensors to lock on to. So, if I could have the ship aiding Latude. One success,
Latude.
awesome. Now somebody can be Latude, who hasn't had a roll in a while.
Gareth.
Okay. Just trying to find the tudes.
He's on the left.
I'll bring him in closer for you.
All right. Okay. What was I rolling again?
It's going to be control plus engineering, with a focus on
Okay.
transporter operations.
Okay. And he's assisting, isn't he?
No, he's the lead.
He's the lead. So, yeah.
All right. Wow. Oh,
3 successes plus 1, which was definitely 2 over and above what you needed to do. So, yeah. Stoker gets beamed directly to the brig. Well done, all. That was a mess, but it was a good mess.
Right, so like the security gang is going to get up and just be sort of like high-fiving each other. Like, yeah! Completely ignoring
Jenny, Eric. Yes. And Lechude will be there at Transporter Room 1 going, I don't know what the heck I just did or why.
Meanwhile, the other ship is getting this over the comm channel.
What have you got in Discord?
My authority as Admiral is total.
Yes, indeed.
And while all this chaos is going on, Vibris, who spent this whole time in the Carpathian as its backup control center, is juggling shit.
Californian. The Carpathia's crashed on the planet again.
Yep.
Okay.
Send a message to the woke up. Admiral has been detained. We are attempting to finish de-escalating this situation. Please hold.
Alright then. Your call is important to us. Please hold. Cool. Alright then. In which case we will go back down to the planet.
Which is the oh shit, Vibus is getting done for mutiny.
No, you can justify the Admiral under Starfleet regulations is that the Admiral ordered the Federation vessel to fire on another Federation
It's
vessel.
justifiable, but it's still mutiny. So we've still got a fucking court-martial about the fact that we shot an Admiral.
Well, you didn't. The good news is that we can blame Jenny.
No,
Blame the generic crew members. Oh, I don't know the token on the seat.
I know, I'm gonna
There we go.
take care of that now. We just put everybody where they should be.
Meanwhile, in the cave, we're going, God, bloody Vibers having a milk run on the ship with nothing happening instead of being down here helping us.
It's like the last time, isn't it, where we're sort of like half of us are on board, and then Flippy Tannenbaum made a break for freedom on board.
Yeah.
Alright. Naseri leads you to the cave that the elders spoke of. Vegetation grows wild and uncontrolled around it, and there's no evidence of traffic into or out of the cave mouth, even by animals. The glow of blue runes within the cave lights it. Naseri points, a look of concern crossing her face. I sometimes hunt near here, and I have never seen those lights like they are now, she says. The passage before you runs deeper into the earth, sloping down. The man-made tunnel looks like it was excavated roughly. The walls and floors are not finished. Runes cut into the rock line the walls, floor, and ceiling. Their blue glow provides the only light, making it difficult to see. Lying scattered throughout the passage are the unmoving form of small primates that look like monkeys from Earth, but with ferret-like faces and sharp teeth. I couldn't find monkeys, so I've used rats instead.
My God, the mutations are getting worse.
So consider it, yeah. So,
Do you think these small monkeys used to be things like insects?
It's really tragic. They were humans once, just like us.
well, a reason plus medicine task with a difficulty of 4 can try and discern what killed them.
Okay. Can I get like surgery or biology as a focus?
Biology, yes.
I just heard Gareth say "bology." I'm like, and then had a moment. I'm like, "What's bology?" And then no, it cut off. So he
The
actually
study of
said
balls.
biology.
Yeah. But not a max momentum. It's a difficulty 4. People alright with me taking the momentum, or
Yeah.
would you rather save it? Okay.
You could always get somebody like Natala or Novo to aid. Since they're sciencey types.
Yeah, get the 2 sciencey types to assist, and then you've got Bertram
Then,
leading.
Nova, you keep on saying about how you're an expert doctor now. What killed these people?
Oh dear, go on. Bertram's
One
just
success.
Like,
You need 4. So,
Insight science.
Yeah, God, I rolled horribly.
yeah.
I'd like to point out that Gareth so far has rolled 20 dice. At this moment
Yeah,
in time.
to be fair, I had to try and save the lives of half the village.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't criticising. I'm just like, Shaun's now just hit 10, but Shaun's the only one in double figures other than you. 20, just like romping ahead. And Matt has rolled 6 die, 3 of which are 1s, 2 2s, and a 5.
What can I say? My lucky streak at the moment with Foundry has continued unabated.
Yeah, we don't talk about Sunday.
We don't talk about what happened Sunday, no. Good grief. Anyways, yeah, difficult to tell what may have killed them. They died of shame.
Sorry.
Are you?
No, in some
Are
parts,
you really?
No, I'm just saying in some parts of the galaxy, such as wherever we seem to go, it seems to be a rampant plague.
All right then.
It's definitely an overexposure.
What do you want to do now?
What do you think was the cause of the shame?
I think it's a good idea to go deeper into this thing, and I wish we hadn't talked.
Nova loses another unrecoverable point of stress.
It's going to make note of every symbol that they pass and what order.
Can I get Caval to give me a control and security task with a difficulty of 2, please? Focuses. I will let you get away with security protocols.
Can I assist at all?
If you want to, yes.
What was it? We're rolling.
Control and security. Caval gets 3 on the money.
Starfleet protocols, you said was acceptable.
Yep. So anything that Andrews gets is bonus. Awesome, so you get 1 above what you need. Cool. So, Caval, as Natala starts moving forwards, you notice there's one of these runes are on the floor, and Natala's all set to go up to it and have a look as she's passing it, and it's at that point that Caval's antennae kind of get this sensation of increased static in the area, and it's at that point that Caval notices a slight spark emanate from the rune, and he manages to grab hold of Natala just in time before she gets near it. You may now have a clue as to what actually killed these things.
Lieutenant Commander, you might want to study this sign and its behavior as you approach.
Okay.
I do believe it's some kind of security system.
Bertram's still about shame and disappointment, but Caval reckons it might be something else. And Andrews would tend to agree.
To be fair, Bertram probably agreed. Gareth saying shame and disappointment.
Mesnan, do you want to take the lead in this situation? Guess.
So I am going to now assume that as you proceed forward, you'll be doing it with an eye of avoiding these things.
Yes, I shall pay close attention to my antennae.
So, I admit there's not much room on the actual map itself for you to place your characters, so if your tokens can't help but brush up against a rune, I will assume you are doing it very carefully, because you are now aware of the danger.
Yeah, who's carrying my stretcher, because then I have to follow them.
Well, quite. I mean, Nova's been the naughty one.
Natala and Nova, because
I
then...
think Nova's on naughty duty, so she disobeyed a direct order twice, so you're pulling the cart.
And Natala's involved in it as well, because the only way you're going to stay still on the stretcher is if you're going there.
I'm pretty sure Andrews is at the point now where if she wanted to, she can't. The condition she's in is that she knows that her body is giving out on her, so she would be reluctantly on the stretcher.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kaval is ranging far ahead, Edward is not far behind. Obviously, Natala and Nova and Andrews are going to be lagging behind a bit, and Bertram is sticking close with that group, so... Congratulations, Edwards, you've made the scouting party again. And yes, you see what you see when you see it.
That's an interesting philosophy.
Technology!
So, the crew are slowly making their way down.
Oops.
This is the second most bizarre version of March of the Penguins I've ever seen.
How did you get there? That's the double step. I can't. Oh, no.
So, this large pentagonal room that opens up before you is full of the same blue markings and etchings that cover the obelisk and the tunnel. The blue glow is the only light. The runes and markings lead to areas that remind you of control panels or viewing screens. A fissure in the ceiling lets warm air into what would otherwise be a very cold room. The floor is littered with detritus and refuse, dirt, bits of rotting vegetation, and animal waste.
This is the nest of the lair of that creature. No wonder it was mutating.
Okay.
Does my tricorder work in here?
No.
Oh, it's worth a shot.
It's still just as dead as... Your technology is still just as dead as it was before.
Nothing, you've seen these before. Is this anything like the one that you turned off?
I've taken a few of them apart. I don't know about turning them off.
This definitely bears striking similarities to what you found on Bacchus 4.
So how did we destroy the one of Bacchus 4 without blowing us all up?
You didn't.
Oh yeah.
But the cause like the entire system to be sucked into a black hole or something, was it?
Yeah, we bravely ran away.
Yeah, some sort of security system activated on the in the monolith in Bacchus 4, which made, if I recall, the monolith start shooting its destructive beams all about the place, destroying the planet.
Let's
Let's
not
not
do
do
that.
that one.
Yeah.
Great minds.
Yeah, great minds think alike.
So,
See, the control panel had the glowing runes, same as the corridor.
Just realised I've been talking while I've been muted. No wonder people have been talking over me.
Aha. So,
I'm going to say Edwards would like to examine the console, and considering this is like the third, fourth time he's seen these runes, would he be able to have enough experience considering his major influences and research and specializations to maybe start piecing together like words and stuff and actually like things that recognise and actually working out what maybe even some of these runes do for on the console panel?
That was pretty much what Shaun was getting at as well with Nova.
Yeah.
Yep. So, right, yes. Ooh, that's a very good point. Caval.
Yes.
Start getting a really strong urge to use the rune controls on the panel, on the main panel in the middle.
Ooh, shiny. What do these do?
Well, yes.
As I start reaching for the panel.
That's the one that looks like pie.
Those of you, well, Nova and Edwards, as you're examining it, as Thazadan is starting to lean towards the panel, you guys reckon that the controls suggest this might be potentially some kind of what is it? Almost like a communication device. And it's very much in the on position. So, this is the point that Thazadan manages to make contact with the controls. Immediately after contact with a rune, a three-dimensional map materializes in the center of the room. In the instance that you can see it, you recognize the oceans and land masses of Pasqual I. Before you can act, however, the blue lights wink out. And unless you're carrying a light source, which you're not, you are in total darkness. You
said
hear...
there was a light from the above.
There is, some light filtering in from a fissure above. So it's not total darkness, but unless you're in a narrow band stretching from the door to the opposite corner, you're going to find it rather hard to see. And that's the point. You hear chittering, shrieking, and howling. And then you feel like you're all covered in a blanket of gnashing teeth biting into your flesh. So, basically, you're all covered in creatures.
Yeah.
So, dozens and dozens of the same creatures that were littering the tunnel as you came in, and they seem to take what happened as the signal to attack.
Office.
Okay, so if you're trying to physically remove them, you're going to need to give me a fitness plus security task.
Oh dear.
However, we start things off with...
Initiative?
Not actually. Right, so that's... Each of you takes a single loss of stress. Single point of stress loss. Do you guys want to do that yourselves? From the initial surprise of being first attacked. So, you're trying to physically remove them, so fitness and security tasks for whoever wants to try it, and whoever wants to help.
No, it's only one of us is a bladed weapon.
It's It's an ultra sharp bladed weapon. I think might be dangerous using it to remove these things. I think tuck and roll is probably better.
It's now blunted
have a
because of the amount of
stick.
bodies that's been.
Stop slugging people with his phasers.
Am I going to take a penalty for this because of my physical condition at this moment in time?
Well, it's going to be an extended task.
Right, can I use survival training then, and then also survival? Oh no, I've burned survival at any cost.
Give me a sec. We've got a work track of a lot. We've got magnitude of 4, crikey, and difficulty of 4 as a result. So, whoever wants to give me a fitness plus security task to try and remove some.
Already have.
That was a 1 success. You needed a difficulty 4 to remove them, so you're still getting bitten and scratched.
Can I burn my value of preservation of life?
Yep.
Cool, and also survival training
Mm-hmm.
as my foci. Oh dear God.
3 successes. Awesome. So that means you do difficulty of 4, 3 successes. So you've advanced along the track, let's say that, but you haven't made any breakthroughs. So both. So Natala tried pulling them off, didn't work. Edwards managed to get maybe 1 or 2 off, but there's still loads more still on him. Andrews has got quite a few of them off of her, but not to the point where she's totally free. Who wants to try something next? There are other options for what you can try as well, if you want to.
Yeah, I think there'll be a shout of get the lights back on.
So if somebody wants to try and relight things, they can try Control plus Con. So whoever wants to try that.
I'll do that.
Cool.
Can I use value? Dynamic situations need to be mastered.
Yeah, sure. I can go with that. For those watching, I know this isn't technically exactly how extended tasks are supposed to work, but for the sake of expediency, this is how I'm doing it at the moment. Caval got 3. 1, 2, 3. So again, under the difficulty of 4, so you do make advancement down the track. Caval manages to successfully get a few of them off of him, but not to the point where he's that free to act. Pressed a few buttons, some light sparked on and off, but not enough to distract the attacking creatures in total. Who hasn't gone yet? Bertram hasn't gone yet, and Nova hasn't gone yet, so what would they like to try?
Just goes nuts with a scalpel, just stabbing at random things.
Laser scalpel. Well, for all I know, I don't have a torch. So for all I know, this thing going off might have just gotten rid of whatever was dampening our technology.
Well, you could try your technology, but at the moment it's not working. So
yeah.
Unless that was the
Well, I don't have
in which case I apologise. I get things by wires crossed.
I haven't actually got a torch to shine around anyway. Best what I could do is try and
keep going.
Try and dash into one of the few areas of light left in case these things are kind of like repelled by the light.
Okie dokie. Let's go with. Let me think. What would be appropriate here? How about a bit of daring and security?
My 2 worst ones.
I mean,
That's it. I'm kind of I'm kind of stuck doing so.
Yeah. We're taking a very non-academic action at the moment, so...
Well, the academics aren't going to help in this
No,
situation.
they're not, unfortunately. So yeah, Bertram goes towards the brighter part of where the vent of light is from up above,
Yep.
but these creatures don't seem to be paying that much attention, so as much as it would suggest they might be dark-dwelling creatures, they don't seem put off by being in the light.
Okay.
Nova's turn. Nova hasn't done anything. I'm going to give you a freebie in this regard, in that because they're primates of a sort, you're definitely getting a very strong sense of primate anger.
Well, Nova in this instance is more interested in the machine. She might not know how the outer workings and control of it works, but she certainly knows how inner workings work.
So what would you like to do?
Dismantle several of these, so she's going to try and pop it open and reroute things into creating light, sparks, anything to...
Ooh. Disco!
Yeah.
Alright, so that sounds like a daring and engineering type check to me. Because of your familiarity with it, I am going to lower the difficulty for you to a 3 rather than a 4, so...
Okay, well, I'm also going to learn how does this work.
Okay.
Focus of inner workings, because I think she's familiar with them.
Awesome. Do it. Do it. 4 successes, which means you get a breakthrough, which means the difficulty goes down. So, Nova's... let me actually advance the track as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, Nova, yes, does successfully manage to get into the wiring, starts pulling things out, switching a few things around, which does create some sparks, some flashing, which seems to confuse the creatures. A couple of them run along the walls and manage to meet some of the rooms, which now spark to life and electrocute some of them. So, you've made some headway. Some of the creatures are now... have been incapacitated. So, this brings us back around to whoever we started with.
That'd be me.
So that would be, yeah. And Edwards, what would you like to try? I mean, do you want to try and make loud noises and try and scare them off? anything you think of.
I'm thinking take Caval's advice and literally drop and roll hard.
Alright, so you're going to try and... So another fitness plus security check, but this time it's difficulty 3 rather than 4.
It's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to take a minute.
Entirely up to you. One success. So, yeah, you managed to... You drop and roll, and you land on one of them, and it does a decidedly squeaky little kind of sound as you get it to expel the air from its little lungs. So you manage to get one of them off of you, but there's still a lot of angry primates in here that seem to be biting, scratching, clawing. So you made some headway. That's another one gone, but there's still a few left. Who's next? Natala.
Natala is going to try and get them off by effectively doing her fencing routine.
Okay.
So she's skilled with fencing, she's got the big stick.
Whack 'em.
Stuff it. Might as well whack 'em, and I do fencing, so I've got my training routine. There's enough rich targets, I may as well fall into the routine I already know.
Now, luckily for
Natala's,
you... Go on, sorry.
Natala's playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever firmly established what discipline of fencing Natala learned. I think maybe John playfully said all of them. So we'll assume you're skilled enough with a stick that you can add the fencing focus onto another Daring and security check, please. To whack them. Difficulty 3. No successes, so you end up hitting more yourself than anything else, but unfortunately don't do much. Next.
Natala's not rolling well at all today.
Who's next? Who wants to go next? Jan, what's...
Caval or Bertram? Yeah, I think Caval or Bertram.
What's Caval doing?
I think maybe I should try and make sure we can get as much. I mean, we still in fair amount of darkness.
Cool. Try and get some lights up.
Yeah.
Control plus con, please. Difficulty 3 this time. Thanks to Nova's tinkering. Three successes, which means you make another breakthrough. Which means the difficulty now goes down. And 1, 2, 3. That is, you make significant more progress as you smack a few more buttons and get things to light up with more intensity. Something happens that makes the room shake and vibrate a bit, which brings down some of the loose earth and opens up more of the hole from above, so that more light spills in. So you get rid of a good few of them in that way. Nice, nicely done. Who wants to go next? Bertram, Nova, Andrews? Anybody?
No one's speaking up, I'll go.
I was going to say, at this point, as I'm not confident in getting them off me, given that Andrews is injured, I might go over and try and actually keep them off him her as much as possible.
Alright. How do you intend on doing that? Force? Yelling over here? Whack-a-mole?
Well, see, they're swarming all around, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm gonna, as she's kind of like against the wall, trying to actually keep basically block her body as much as possible with mine to make her less of a target.
So that sounds like another daring and security attempt to me. This time difficulty 2, though, there's less to deal with.
Okie dokie.
One success, so no breakthrough, but you do manage to, put yourself between Andrews and some of them. It's a smaller lot of them now as well, which means they're getting a bit more manageable. Nova or Andrews next? Which one wants to go next? I will go with Andrews then. What's Andrews doing?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to burn my last determination at this point. For the good of the Federation is that I think, or hold the line suit.
That sounds better.
Yeah, let's burn, hold the line. To basically just kind of try and find the biggest one.
I see.
Like prove I am the alpha.
Nice, go for it.
Using focus, use determination, roll the dice. Oh dear God.
4 successes, which means you get 2 over what you need, which means you essentially, you do it. You find the biggest one, which is still around, and you make a quick beeline for it. Andrews shouts, makes a big old noise. The biggest primate comes at her, and as it leaps, she swings with, basically puts the stretcher between her and the primate, and then pushes it over so that the primate gets pinned. And then she does a nice big victory roar, as the primates then realise that they are outdone and outmatched. These bigger primates are big and scary, and they disappear. They all, the ones that are still around, they jump off of you and scurry back into various holes that they've dug into the earth. Wow, that was something. So, that leaves
Nova.
Well, Nova, and she's in a prime position to try and learn what this is all about. So let's see. Can I have an insight plus science? Difficulty... I'm going to make this difficulty 2 for you because of your familiarity with these systems. One success. Okay. Would you like to succeed at cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, cool. So, Nova... Nova rummages around inside of the console and is getting a good idea of what this thing is. This is definitely some kind of communication console. And you can see that there's power being fed into it and that the system definitely seems to be on active. And when the primate creatures are finally all able to be chased off, it gives Nova a good chance to concentrate on what she's doing and get an idea of what's going on. This technology seems to be broadcasting a message. There's no specific message, though. It's more like an outgoing signal. But the signal itself is so powerful that it is causing the electromagnetic interference planet-wide. But the interesting thing is that the reason it's planet-wide is that there are multiple monoliths all over this planet, and they are all acting as basically signal antennae. And the broadcast, whatever it is, seems to be being beamed out into space. There's a moment. There's the briefest flicker of a moment for Nova when, as she's looking at this, what seems to be some kind of data screed whizzing past, that the information whizzing past is in a language that she doesn't recognize. And some of the runes do look familiar, but they're not in a format that you can actively interpret. But for a moment, there's something very hypnotic about the screed going past, and somebody else has to shake Nova to bring her out of that trance.
Natala.
Yeah.
But you now have an idea. Cavall, Edwards, Natala, and Nova have an idea of what you can do to turn this thing off at last. So,
before you attempt to turn it off, do we know what potential consequences are going to be?
At this point,
It's receiving the signal will stop receiving it. When that happens, we usually come looking.
now this signal is obviously so... Sorry, I talked over you there, Webby, but this signal is obviously so powerful that it's producing radiation. And if there is more than one monolith on the planet...
There's a lot of radiation. It's probably what's creating the storm.
But at the same time, we could completely destroy the ecosystem of this planet and endanger its natural inhabitants.
Well...
But if we don't do anything, it's going to get worse. We saw they'd started to mutate and other things there, so it's starting to fail.
It looks like it's been mutating over probably generations, but something has started. There was a burst of this when we tried to interact with it, if what you're saying is true and it's reaching up in space, could it be that our scans from the orbit from the Navis were what caused maybe sort of like the start flaring up and start mutating the wildlife on a much larger and more quick basis? If like basically interaction with these fins and if it's reaching out and it contacted something, could it have had a reaction? Maybe it's malfunctioning.
Possibly, but Doctor, just to sort out something that's been going through my head. What would be the end result of the build-up of radiation through generations? If each generation is getting more and more radiation, or does it pass down in DNA, or how? I was trying to think. Would there be a build-up that would create greater and greater mutations to the point where it becomes lethal? Is what I was more trying to think.
I'd say
Like
radiation unravels DNA, as far as I understand.
yeah. To be honest. To be honest, what would probably happen over the course of multiple more generations is eventually, not so much it will kill them before it gets to that part, it will probably start making them less and less biologically viable and able to produce offspring. So eventually the beings of this planet may start being unable to propagate the species enough to survive as a species ongoing. That would be my best guess.
So I was thinking, there's a good chance that if we leave it on, then it's going to be worse. Or...
We don't know that, though. This is why I want options. I'd like it if everyone has. Yes, if everyone would like to give their opinion on what they would recommend.
I'll default to the Doctor.
All right, so
Matt, nothing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Honestly, nothing I've observed leads me to believe that they're in any way dependent, even on a low level of, on the radiation being given out by these fins. Would it?
Nothing
Given
that
that
you've met so far in looking at the plants, looking at the animals, mostly the plants, but seeing how it's been causing these, well, painful mutations in the local populace. Shutting it off would probably be beneficial. The local wildlife doesn't seem to be dependent on it. It's flourished in spite of, but it's now having an adverse effect on the wildlife because it's making otherwise, insect foragers. It's turning into wild rampaging beasts because they're so insane with the pain.
Yeah. So doctors will say there's nothing I've seen that suggests that they're biologically dependent on it. Conversely, the longer this goes on, especially with some of the contributors we're starting to see now in their conditions, it will start making alterations first to biological life and then possibly later to plant life that will end up wrecking the ecology as the animals stop acting as they are and start lashing out and decaying mentally and physically because of the pain and because of the genetic damage this is doing.
So what does Nova think?
Nova thinks she can potentially alter it to shut it down gradually by maybe rewiring a tricorder in instead of the original core and potentially putting a program in to create a natural reduction in the radiation over time so that they still have that shield and things to keep them as they are, that like nobody's going to come up and interfere with their natural way of life, but over time things will get better for them.
However, this does raise a good point. With this EM interference still active, you're not going to be able to get back to the ship.
But potentially could disable it for a period of time before flicking it back over.
Okay.
Give us a very short window, but would be a period where the old core is taken out and the tricorder goes online.
What does Caval think?
I think we should shut it down, and the handling of the natives after the shield is gone should be determined by Starfleet. But I don't think leaving the shield on is the best option.
These people have never experienced electricity of any form. Or at least enough to create any sort of technology.
They've got windmills, so they are on the path.
Okay. So, what's the final word? Keep it on, make it go, use Nova's idea of making it a gradual thing, or turn it right off. What you gonna do? Final decision.
I think whatever we do, we've got to track the signal.
Yes, but I think general consensus was to shut it down.
Okay.
Yep.
At which point, yes, the Nova manages to put it in and basically pull out the power, and the whole thing gradually shuts down. And pretty soon, your comm badges flare to life as you get a message from the Navis asking you if you're all okay and for a situation report. So,
Out the cave before the creatures start swarming if the lights are going off again.
yeah. So, unless there's anything immediate, I am going to take an executive decision and say you're going to beam yourselves back up to the ship.
Nova will be trying to take a data core out of this one, so
Yep.
she has the other ones.
Yep, that's fine.
So,
Are we able to retrieve the shuttle as well?
Yes. That'll have to
I
be
think
board as
that
well.
we would potentially say our farewells to the natives
Okay.
and tell them that, yeah, the cave.
Cave is now kind of safe, but don't go down there.
Yeah, I'd
we have
I'd say
appeased the great curse, Darius.
So give them some kind of story that's on the level that they understand that they shouldn't go down there.
yeah,
We
Okay.
can't tell them about the creatures that swarm there.
Yeah.
yes.
We've
You've
all
got-
got injuries to prove it.
Well, I was going to say, you've all got the bites and scratches, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
We
cool.
paid
So,
recompense for what we did and apologised.
Commander, Vibus to Andrews, we may have a situation up here when you're free.
yeah. And
We
that's
may have possibly committed a mutiny.
and that's a really good point to put us back to the bridge.
Well, I think Andrews is going to be needing medical attention.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, she
This-
is.
Bertram will actually want everyone who was on their way team to go to
Sick bay.
yeah.
sick bay for
Yeah,
at
decon.
minimum decontamination.
Are the bionics working again? The cybernetics working again?
Yes, the bionics and cybernetics start working again. So
My rib is still messed up.
yes, so the detriment to Andrews and the traits that we put on them, the injuries are now gone.
Andrews gets to hear that she missed the opportunity to smack her around the hand.
There's going to be a formal. There's going to be a formal interrogation.
Yeah, you
with,
said that she's in the brick.
yeah. Stoker is going to be formally interrogated by Andrews and the security personnel before being handed over.
One punch each.
Now-
Commander, we also got the Walcott still here.
Yes. Now,
Yeah, I assume that Andrews will be assuming command of the
Well,
ship again.
yes.
And relaying with the captain of the Walcott whilst in decon and having her cybernetics brought back online.
yes, indeed. So a lot does happen over the next hour or so. Obviously, everyone has to go through decontamination, so Nova is the one that has to stay in decontamination the longest, but thanks to the plentiful supply of the doc's miracle moss,
Yay.
it's a procedure that doesn't take too long. Of course, all that irradiated moss does have to be disposed of very, very carefully. But Yes, indeed. Sometime later, you still have Stoker on board in the brig, who is not being very talkative at all at the moment, just kind of looking very glum. You liaise with the Walcott, and the Walcott offers to stay with you guys at the moment until they've sent word back to Starfleet, so they're waiting for orders to return to see what it is you guys can do. So you go back to your stations on the bridge to just wait around for whatever it is that Starfleet is going to decide that you have to do next. While you do, you're all at your various stations, and it's at that point that whilst you're just podding around on your stations, that each of you gets an application window opens up on each of your stations, unbidden. So for Andrews, she gets this application window opens up on one of the armrests of the captain's chair. Everyone else, on a console in front of you, an application window opens. The contents of the application are scrambled. Very difficult to determine what's actually going on. Occasionally, there's glimpses of what appears to be some kind of holo recording, but the holo recording itself is scrambled, and when you try and play it back, the application throws up some kind of cipher, and the cipher is different for each and every one of you. So, with the time being what it is, I am going to kind of throw myself into God mode here and just narrate what happens. One of you obviously notices that something's going on and makes note of, is anyone else getting an odd application come up? At which point, the rest of you then go, yeah, as it turns out. Bertram will probably then comm to the bridge and ask, does anyone know why? Yeah, and Vibers, does anyone know what an application has opened up in front on my desk?
Bertram to Vibers, have you kind of like made a second version of the Vibers protocol that's messing around with my station?
Not me this time, Doc. This might be why I've been having the slowdowns, but it looks like all my compartmentalizing did feck all, so shit, we're gonna have to wipe the ship and reinstall.
So, I am going to ask Andrews to give me an insight and insight? Control and security check, please. I'm not going to tell you what the difficulty is.
Any of my foci?
Yeah. Starfleet protocols. 2 successes. Awesome. That's one over what you needed. You recognize the cipher on your application window as it's beeping in Morse code. The message is detailing a set of security protocols that Andrews herself wrote when she was head of security here on the Navis, that she sent as a communication to the captain as a list of the recommendations of the security changes that would need to be made. Can I now get Edwards to give me an insight and science check with a focus on... let me see, what was it? Xenolinguistics.
Communications? Oh, xenolinguistics, okay. Oh, I love toast.
Okay.
Like blah 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 blah. My
The
computer
ship will
with numbers.
self-destruct.
Okay. This is a language, and you're not sure why you think you should recognize it, but it does ring as very familiar. But you can't quite get your head around it. Caval, can I get Caval to give me a control and security check, please?
Security protocols?
No. Astronavigation.
Wicked.
Again, I'm not going to tell you the difficulty. 2 successes, which means you get 1 over what you needed. Cavall recognizes the cipher pattern in front of him as the sequence of movements in an astronavigational sim that kind of like a sim game that Cavall and the captain used to play on a regular basis, kind of like their weekly one of their weekly get-togethers.
There's some BC squares.
Yeah.
Battleships.
Now I'm going to need Nova to give me a insight and engineering check, please. For those watching, I have a feeling that the feed is going to go on for a teeny bit longer than past 10 o'clock, for a good reason, and it'll all become evident soon.
Tune in next week to find out what happens.
Okay, so no successes. You've got Nova's cipher is this weird thing where you've got what looks like some kind of blueprint, but it's not very easy to tell what of, because there's a lot of overlapping lines and
Can
shapes.
Andrews make a suggestion to everyone? Is there something that's personal to you and the captain is potentially a cipher?
Bertram, can I get Bertram to, in sickbay, make a insight and medicine check with focus on botany?
Botany.
We found the captain. She's in the computer.
In the
See,
moss.
at this point, I was waiting for someone else to do it on it, and anyone mind if I use a point of momentum?
Yes.
Yes, we do now.
Okay, right.
But he's going to do it anyway.
No.
No,
Multiple
it's
people.
fine. It's fine. You can spend the momentum. We're
Okay.
getting close to the end of the evening. You can spend it.
3 successes over and above. Right. Which will filter itself, I think, into Nova's and Edwards's, because it will filter through what Andrews just noted. It's something personal to you and something to do with the captain, which is a good note, because Bertram recognizes the nucleotide sequence of the energy-absorbing moss, but when the original moss, as you found it on Ramaldi Tamnor. It's missing a sequence, but now that you recognize what it is, you can input it and it unlocks what was behind the cipher, which leaves us with Vibers and Natala. So, Vibers, I'm going to ask for an insight and engineering check from Vibers. The difficulty for this has now gone down because of what both Andrews and Bertram have managed to glean.
Can I burn a momentum?
You can if you want.
No.
Wow.
Can't believe you had to check. You had to stream snipe Shaun to find out, to prove that Mr. Edwards is a changeling.
3, so that's 2 over and above what you needed. So, yeah, at this point, you've recognized the pattern that's going on. Each individual app is tailored to the individual that's viewing it. Andrews is seeing the security thing. Vibers is seeing the energy patterns, the energy frequency patterns of the EPS conduits, but not on the Navis, on the USS Pharaoh, which was where Vibers' previous host was engineer on. Natala gains a quantum mathematical computation that results in the quantum signature of the monoliths of Beta Niobe. Nova, you recognize finally the blueprint in front of you as being that of the tubes and conduits of the Navis, and the way to unlock the cipher is to plot the most expedient course from the bridge to the mess hall, which Nova has done countless times and therefore can unlock really quickly. But as far as Nova knows, she's the only one that knows how to do that. And Edwards, the language cipher was from an archaeological expedition near the Argolis cluster that Edwards and his family had previously been near. So, yes. Everyone manages to finally decrypt. When they decrypt their individual bits, they get a short playback that's full of static. And it's a bit difficult to place, but what is obvious from the brief glimpses you get between the static is that it's a view of the captain's ready room, but from a corner of the ceiling, which suggests that it's from some kind of concealed surveillance device. And that's all you can make out. There's the possibility that in amongst all the static you can make out a pair of humanoid figures moving about the room, but you can't get enough until you eventually enter all the ciphers on all of your different applications. And what springs to life is the following that I'm going to have to read to you for the sake of all of those who are following along on the feed and are just listening in. So the final view displays the captain's ready room as seen from the upper left corner. The angle suggests that this recording was taken using a hidden holorecorder. Captain Ducasse can be seen moving about her ready room collecting pads and collating notes. The ready room door chimes. Without looking up from her pads, the captain responds, "Enter." The doors slide open to reveal Admiral Stoker, who takes 2 steps into the ready room. The doors whisper shut behind her. Stoker: "Captain's always the last to leave. Nice to see some traditions don't change. The ship took some nasty damage, I hear, from those alien tractor beams." Captain Ducasse: "The state of the Navis appears to be my concern, Admiral, not yours." Stoker: "Straight to business then, I see. Very well." Captain Ducasse puts down her stack of pads and sits behind her desk. "Before you begin, however, I feel I need to apologize once again for Tannenbaum." Ducasse: "Yes, indeed, Tannenbaum. Very much part of the subject I wanted to discuss with you." Admiral Stoker, sitting herself down across the desk from Captain Ducasse: "And this is just a discussion, I hope." Captain Ducasse: "For the moment." Admiral Stoker: "Look, Adriana, Captain Ducasse will do. I already assured you I had no idea of what that woman was up to, but surely it proves what I've been saying all along." "And what have you told me exactly?" "Very little, as it turns out." "I told you before, if I tell you too much, then I endanger all of you. Like you've been endangering us by ordering us out on these missions close to Romulan or Klingon space during these rather delicate times?" Stoker snorts dismissively. "Please, Captain, this has the potential to be so much bigger than simple inter-system borders or the petty disputes of rival governments. I thought you were more of a big-picture person than that." Captain Ducasse: "And I can't grasp the big picture unless I've given all the information at hand. Like, for instance, where you get your so-called intelligence about these lost alien sites." "I can't reveal my sources, you know that, and if I do, and someone files a report or just happens to mention a name in passing aboard Narendra Station, then those sources could be easily disappeared, just like the others." "Yes, these psychiatric patients you claimed have vanished." "I claimed nothing. Those people were there, at those medical facilities, one moment, and then, when I sought them out the next, they were gone, transferred out, and no one could tell me by whom." I have to think... Excuse me a second. Just lost my place. People were there, the next one, they were transferred out, no one could tell me by whom. I have to think of the safety of the other remaining patients, so I choose not to disclose their identities." "Like your son, you mean?" Admiral Stoker visibly recoils in her seat at this. Though the neutral expression on her face doesn't waver, she blinks several times. With her voice wavering a little bit, Admiral Stoker continues, What are you talking about? Captain Ducasse snatches up a pad from the stack in front of her. Your son? And she reads from the pad. Admiral John Stoker, age 14, born in Bray, Ireland, diagnosed with an unknown psychiatric disorder on stardate 47438. Admiral Stoker leans forward, fists clenched. Have you been spying on me? Captain Ducasse casts the pad in front of her so that it slides to a stop on the desk before Admiral Stoker. You didn't exactly give me much choice, Admiral. I needed to know who it was that I was asking myself and my crew to risk their lives and their careers for in Starfleet. I think this little chat of ours is over, Captain. Admiral Stoker rises to leave. Captain Ducasse. We're not done here, Admiral. She rises out of her own chair and meets Admiral Stoker partway to the door. Get out of my way, Adriana, says Admiral Stoker. Why was Tannenbaum on my ship? Says Captain Ducasse. Lost my place. I told you. She was obviously here to hinder our investigation. Into what? So far, we've found some interesting similarities with some of those dead alien civilizations, but that's it. Nothing worth going to all this effort for. Then you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Which is what, exactly? A lost ancient civilization that spanned multiple star systems that is not dead. And what makes you think they're not dead? What have we discovered so far that could even remotely imply that? If you had access to the same people that I do, you wouldn't question it. Captain Ducasse now places herself between Admiral Stoker and the door. But I don't, do I, Admiral? I only have your word on this. No evidence, no witness statements. Only the word of an admiral who's lost her teenaged son to an unknown disease. Stoker blinks. What are you getting at? Did it never occur to you that what this might look like from the outside? An admiral with a son suffering from an incurable disease, a conspiracy that only she knows about. Are you suggesting I'm making all of this up? An admiral, an individual, used to being in control, is forced to watch as her son is taken away from her. Please stop this. A mother, unable to help her own child. That has to be painful. I can't imagine how helpless it must make you feel. Don't you dare insinuate you have any idea what I've been going through. I'm not saying this isn't hard, it must be, but you have to also recognize the way it looks. A decorated admiral, unable to help her own son, comes up with a fantastic story that lets her be the hero one last time. Stoker. I'm not delusional! Admiral Stoker lunges at Captain Ducasse, backing her up against the wall. The captain responds by breaking the admiral's grip and pushes her back against the desk with her foot. Turning, Captain Ducasse goes for the door. And the two, and she goes for her comm badge, As she does, Admiral Stoker comes up behind the captain and wraps her arms around the captain's head and neck in a rear-naked choke. Struggling against the hold, Captain Ducasse pushes herself off of the wall, sending them both collapsing backwards. Captain Ducasse strikes her head against the desk as they both topple to the floor. Admiral Stoker heaves Captain Ducasse off of her and, still panting from exertion, checks the captain's pulse. Oh God, what did I do? She sits back, running her hands through her short hair. Computer! There is a responding chime. Online. How many crew aboard the ship currently? 9. Any of them on the bridge or in the transporter room? There are computational sounds. Negative. Computer, beam Captain Ducasse to transporter room 1, but do not rematerialize. There is a warning beep. Unable to comply. Storage of personnel in transported pattern buffer is against safety regulations. Override on my authority. Recognize voice print. Admiral, Bana, Stoker. There are confirmation chimes. Override accepted. Energize. Captain Ducasse's unconscious form dematerializes, leaving Admiral Stoker alone. Computer, apply level 1 security lock on the transporter pattern buffer where Captain Ducasse's pattern is stored. There's an affirmative chime. Security lock applied. Encrypt pattern data and password lock access. Password is Averley. There's an affirmative chime. Password Enabled. Admiral Stoker sits on the floor, nodding to herself. All right, she's fine. She'll see. When I have proof, they'll all see. I'll let her out, and they'll all see that I was right. Admiral Stoker stands up, smooths her uniform, straightens her hair, strides out of the bridge. The feed ends.
Okay. Andrews to Mr. Latude. Security level priority override, etc. Give the information. Beam the pattern directly to sick bay medical emergency.
Of course, Commander. Commander, there's no pattern in the buffer.
Vibers check to see if there's any sign. Vibers assist, Nova assist to see if there's any signs of residual pattern in the buffers. Anything that's in there.
Okay, so one of the things I put in quite a while back when we first had Stoker on the ship was a log of every time overrides got used.
Yep, and I did make mention that the Admiral made use of Transporter Room 1.
Oh shit.
You asked, and I noted it.
Yep. Did you use the override to
Go on.
release it from Transporter Room 1?
It hasn't been... she did not use the override to release it, no. Nova and Vibers can confirm there is no pattern in Transporter Room 1's pattern buffer. There is not an encrypted section of it. It's totally empty.
Can we run a level 5 diagnostic? See what happened when the pattern if there is a pattern, whether it destabilized, whether there's any residual in the computer core.
Okay.
Yep,
What you
I'm doing
find...
that, and I'm doing a scan for...
What you find is that, according to the logs, the pattern was locked in the buffer, and then there is an empty section of the transporter logs, and after that empty log, there is no indication that there is a pattern in the buffer.
Was this around the time when Tannenbaum was on board for the second time?
I was going to ask you.
I was just thinking, Commander. Yeah.
No.
Because we don't know exactly what she did. Oh, it's not. Never mind.
This was when
I
Captain
called-
Akul was on board.
I called up their family stuff just to see what happened.
You did?
The calls they mentioned when I made that call to Admiral Ducasse, and I got the housekeeper. They said the captain came to see them.
Yes.
Did they say when? Was that afterwards?
I am going to go with... It matches with around the time that Captain Akul took command of the ship, briefly.
Okay, so
I might have to
following
retcon
on
myself
from-
in that regard if anybody's watching and can look through the previous episodes and say, actually, Matt. So I'll retcon myself there just in case.
Okay, so is there any? Right, we now need a log of anything, any activity that the Captain Akul did whilst on board the ship. I think this information needs fully relaying to Admiral Ebert. And
Go
that's
through
we are
communication logs.
at this moment in time we are currently we have evidence to suspect that Admiral Stoker has also committed murder.
Right.
I said, just start trolling through communication logs, see if there's anything from that period that stands out. Actually, no, nothing that stands out. Just go through everything.
And I think I will leave us there. This is technically the end of this episode, but obviously things that have happened in this episode are going to carry over into the next one. But this, for the sake of milestones and reputation calculation, this counts as the end of this episode, and we'll carry on everything else into the next one. So, what happened to Captain Ducasse? The investigation continues, and with everything else that you were looking into in that regard, and what's gonna become of Admiral Stoker, besides getting obviously charged for murder.
We have airlocks.
So,
We
I'm
also
gonna-
have a
Accidents
doctor. We also have a doctor that's very good at keeping secrets. She's going to be interrogated.
She had
Well-
these bruises from the scuffle with security.
No, because the doctor can patch up the bruises.
It's fine. Just discharge the pattern into space without focusing it. Problem.
I know that was a lot of me basically talking to myself in two different voices. Hopefully that came across all right.
We call it a plot bomb.
So hopefully it was obvious who was speaking when. If not, I'll work on my accents. But otherwise, yes, intrigue abounds. So for the sake of this, the stream not running on for too long, I will say, well, I won't say anything. What I'll actually do is steeple my fingers like a villain, and say, we'll see you next time, and see if the guys can find out what happened to their captain. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody. If you are watching this on YouTube, then please consider giving it a like, because it helps the other guys who are also streaming to YouTube their Star Trek Adventures games. There's more stuff coming out from Modiphius soon, so it'll be nice to get the notice on that. I just got word recently the IDW Comics are also releasing what's going to be considered the canon sequel to Deep Space Nine in comic book form. So that'll be something for Trek fans to look out for if they want to read what IDW Comics are doing as the sequel to Deep Space Nine. If not, then at the moment I think we're just trawling through Lower Decks. So let's keep the trek going for now on YouTube if we can. In the meantime, thanks everybody for watching. Live long and prosper, and hailing frequencies are now closed.